Okay, I'd like to call the November 6, 2024 Board of Selectmen's meeting to order at 6:30. Mr. Pinio, do we have a need for a non-public?
Madam Chairperson, we do not. The only thing that I would note is under other business, we'd like to address the tax rate.
Board members, are we all comfortable under other business doing the tax rate? Okay. First item on the agenda, the minutes of October 16th. Are there any changes?
October 16th.
October 16th.
Yeah.
Do you have one, Brett?
Yep. Yeah.
Now that you've shown it to
So the third line down, it says, Chairman Senegal opened the meeting at 6:30 p.m. and it was Chairman Murray.
Thanks for that. Yeah. On the first line under September 18th, 2024, after it says first paragraph, I'd like the and question mark removed. On page 7, the last two motions, I don't see any vote. Is everybody with me? So as I remember, we all voted in favor.
I think that's correct.
Anybody have any other recommendation? Okay, so we need those two to have motions that we all voted in favor. No one was opposed. Okay, can I have a motion to accept as amended?
So moved.
Do I second? Second. Okay, I have a motion by Brad, a second by Dave. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All righty. I'm going to start and open up the first public hearing. It is the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, November 6, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. to consider a temporary event permit application for the Wolfeboro Chamber of Commerce to hold Christmas in Wolfeboro, November 30th, 2024 through December 24th, 2025 at various locations downtown, including Main Street and Town Park. Community events include the tree lighting, parade, and a visit with Santa. Santa's hut will be placed in Cape Park, and the Christmas tree placed in the town parking spot in front of Black Paper Store. Permit 2024-60. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this permit?
Hi, Mary DeVries from the Wolfeboro Area Chamber of Commerce, and we're pleased to bring back the return of Christmas in Wolfeboro. The month-long event kicks off with the Christmas in Wolfeboro Parade, 3 o'clock Saturday, November 30th, and entry forms are still available. It's not too late to join the parade, and I'd be glad to give you a copy of the entry form. You can stop by at the information center, and they're also available on wolfeborochamber.com. And we have Santa Claus has confirmed that yes, he will be spending the month here in Wolfeboro again, and the parade is immediately followed by the lighting of the community Christmas tree. There will be local students caroling at the tree, so everyone can enjoy that. And then immediately after the tree lighting, Santa and Mrs. Claus will be joining him. They will make their way up to Santa's hut for visiting hours that afternoon as well. We do have planned leading up to the parade and just after to have Bob with his fire engine, his personal fire engine, back in front of the Chamber of Commerce, the former railroad station. So on parade day, he'll be there. This is the third year, and he will be collecting donations to the Wolfeboro Children's Christmas Fund during that time. So looking forward to the event.
Okay. Is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to give us any public input on this temporary event permit? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, does anybody have any questions or concerns?
I was just wondering, if you have a rapport with Santa, could you ask him this year for some snow?
Every year, yes, absolutely. He does have a lot of magic.
Only question I have, when I look back at our application, the police signed off and they didn't have any suggestions. Am I correct, you will meet with them about the parade and any officer you might need during the parade, or?
Yes, in fact, we're working on the parade permit with the New Hampshire Department of Transportation. They have put in effect, as of late August of this year, a new online parade permit, if you will. That's not the formal title of it, but so working through that, and I'd be glad to submit that signed approval if you need that.
And you'll check with the town. Do we have a police officer who's there or shuts the road, or are we, while you take the parade down?
So I'm hesitating a little to speak on behalf of what that will look like this year, because I have not connected with anyone at the police department yet. But in the past, yes, they have been very helpful and play an important role in the parade.
So you will contact the police department?
Absolutely.
That will take care of it. Okay. Any other board members have anything?
Just one question. Mary, have you guys located a tree yet and stuff, or an opportunity to put it out there if we're still looking? So.
Yes, we have a tree.
Okay, good.
Barry Michio and his team and the chamber team, we start this process way in advance, months and months and months, almost year to year. And there's some beautiful trees that are, wonderful, generous donations from people in the community. But the tree needs to be about at least 35 feet tall, because 6 feet is cut off of the bottom of it, it's the only way it will work to be put in place safely and securely.
Yep.
So, I might look at a tree, or someone else on my team, and say, that's a beautiful tall tree, but when Barry and his team have the eye to know if it really is tall enough. So anyway, I'm sorry to drag that on, but we do have a tree as of today.
Good.
And we'll always have a tree. It's just we try to use the tallest one when we can, and then have some backups. And some years it's just going to be maybe not your typical tall tree. It might be a short one, but this year it'll be tall.
Good. I'll connect to you some other time, because I did come across the potential probably for future dates now, so I'll connect with you at some point, let you know where that is and stuff.
That would be great. And we invite anyone who, again, anytime during the year, if it's in July, if you spot a tree that you think might be a good candidate, please let us know.
Okay. Board members, somebody like to make a motion?
Move to approve a temporary event permit for the Wolfeboro Chamber of Commerce to host Christmas in Wolfeboro, November 30th, 2024 through December 24th, 2024 at various locations downtown, including Main Street and Town Park. Community events to include the tree lighting parade, visits with Santa at Santa's Hut, Christmas tree in town parking spot in front of Black's Paper Store. Permit number 2024-60.
Do I have a second? Okay, I have a motion by Brian, a second by Paul. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll open up the next public hearing. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, November 6, 2024, on or about 6:30 p.m. at the Wolfeboro Town Hall, 34 South Main Street, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, to consider the application for issuance of an alcohol beverage permit to the Lakes Region Curling Association for their end-of-season ceremony on December 15th, 2024 at the Abenaki Ski Lodge at 390 Pine Hill Road from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Is there anybody who'd like to speak to this alcoholic permit?
Hi, I'm Andrea Dudley, representing Lakes Region Curling Association. We have a group of about 40 people who curl every Sunday afternoon at Pop Whalen from mid-October to mid-December, and then we start up again in January through March. It's a very congenial, convivial group, but we do have a championship, and we award a championship honor at the end of the season. So I think this is the third or fourth time we've come to you asking for the use of Abenaki Lodge, and we provide sandwiches and cookies for folks, and we invite them to bring a beverage for their own consumption, beer or wine. And it's a pretty sedate group. Linda has been a guest. She can attest to that. So we would ask your indulgence again to allow this to take place on December 15th.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this alcoholic beverage permit? Hearing none. Board members, any questions or concerns?
Move to approve an alcohol beverage permit to the Lakes Region Curling Association for their end-of-year season ceremony on December 15, 2024 at the Abenaki Ski Lodge on 390 Pine Hill Road from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Brian, second by Brad. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just a question,
Here,
please.
okay.
Yeah. Does it work? No underage
Leave.
guests, right? There'll be no underage guests in the
No,
facility.
no, it's an older crowd. The youngest we have is probably mid-30s. That's it.
Okay,
So,
thank you. That's all I needed to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? You have
Thank
your
you.
permit.
Thank you.
I would just invite any of you to come watch us on a Sunday night, and in mid-February during the Parks and Rec Winter Carnival, we do a Learn to Curl, where you're invited to come try it out if you'd like. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Before I read this next public hearing, I noticed that the amount in the public hearing and the check in the back are different. So I'm going to read in $35,900, which is the amount of the check. Is the board comfortable with me doing that, or do you want me to read it with the wrong amount?
I'm comfortable.
You comfortable? Everybody comfortable?
Yep.
Okay. I'd like to open up the next public hearing. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, November 6, 2024, at 6:30 p.m. at the Great Hall, Town Hall, 34 South Main Street, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, for the acceptance of unanticipated funds for an amount donated that is over $10,000 in accordance with RSA 31:95-B3a, related to the donation of funds in the amount of $35,900 for the Wolfeboro Single Track Alliance for the purpose of installing boardwalks along Abenaki Bike Trail. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to this public hearing? Jim, do you want to kind of speak to it since you were there?
Sure. So this is a dovetail into the previous approvals for the bike trails at Abenaki. Myself, Selectman Deshays, Chuck Sumner walked the trails with the contractor. They had flagged out the trails as the board had recommended, green flagging outlining where the new trails and boardwalk are being built, and red trails where they will be discontinued. The project is moving forward. There's been good communication. There's been one change order that they've reached out to me about, and that is the type of material that they're using. Rather than cedar, they're using, I believe it's hemlock, because they had a problem being able to source cedar. The project is moving along smoothly. Nothing really to report out at this point, other than this is the funds to be able to pay for that work, and that contractor is working for the town of Wolfeboro. That's why we need to accept the funds.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak at this public hearing? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members?
Jim, with lots of purchase orders and invoices flying around, the 35,900 is the correct number?
That is what we have invoiced based on the estimate that he's provided, so
Okay.
I would say that is an accurate number, Brian.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions or concerns? Hearing none, can I have somebody to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the donation of funds in the amount of $35,900 from the Wolfeboro Single Track Alliance for the purposes of installing boardwalks along the, and building trails along the Abenaki bike trail system.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by motion by Brad, second by Brian. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. We're through the public hearings. Next one is the bulk vote. October 18th, it was $370,955.11. This is the weekly manifest. October 25th, it's $166,448.58. November 1st, it's $1,443,613.70. That includes a school payment, and then we have one permit raffle. That's all that's in the bulk vote this week. Do I have somebody who'd like to make a motion?
Nope.
We approve the bulk vote A and B.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Dave, a second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion passed. The first thing under new business, adapted skate day at Pop Whalen Ice Arena. Is there anybody here to speak to that? I would like to table that until we have somebody here to speak to it.
No objection.
All right, I'll make a motion to table.
Second.
All right, Linda made the motion, Paul seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All righty. Next item on the agenda is an MOU from the Friends of Kingswood Hockey. I did meet with the Friends of Kingswood Hockey and Mr. Pinio and one of their members to talk about it. But as you all realize, I will not make any vote on the MOUs. I didn't on the first one because it has to do with the fundraising for the facility, and I stepped down because I have a conflict of interest. There is no vote taken today. I will just kind of lead the discussion. So, we have some people here to talk to you about this MOU.
Justin Brown, I'm the treasurer of this organization. And Jessica is the...
I'm Jessica Williams, and I'm the vice president.
First, while I have the microphone, I'd like to commend the town on a great job yesterday with the staff and the volunteers and moderator. It went really smooth for me and everybody I talked to, so great job. So this MOU that we reviewed has relatively minor changes. I think the first edition or signed contract that we did didn't include some unforeseen details that we asked to be included in this amendment, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have, but I think that we adjusted some language at the meeting that Madam Chair referenced, and the only addition that we have or request to have is relatively minor, but on page 2, section 5D delta, at the end of when locker rooms are occupied and in use, we'd like to add by students to clarify that the students, not just everybody, need to comply with that policy as requested. And then further down, referencing the specific Governor Wentworth Regional School District, GBCD page, or...
It's just policy GBCD in the Governor Wentworth Regional School District Handbook. There's a specific policy that we want to reference, so instead of just saying section G, we want to be specific about which policy it is and that it's as amended. So that we're adding into our MOU a specific policy, so that if they amend it in the future with something we don't necessarily agree with, we're not bound to that, but we're agreeing to how it stands now. So that's policy G, B, C, D.
GB,
G, B as in boy, C, Charlie, D, dog.
okay.
Jim, do you want to kind of relate the conversation we had and where you are as town manager on this MOU?
Yeah, so I think we had a very productive meeting last week. We got a lot of things moved. I do believe that we've got some more work to do on this, as I outlined in the memo to the board. I'm hopeful that we're able to continue to move forward and have a conversation with this group to get this closer to the finish line. When this came in front of you tonight, this came in front of you as informational because you have yet to see it. And the hopes are that we can work with Ms. Collins, myself, and the group to get this to the finish line for the November 20th Board of Selectmen's meeting. With that said, I think it's important to be able to get input from the board on what you see as issues or items that you'd like to have addressed before we get to that November 20th meeting.
Board members, does anybody have any questions, concerns? Brian?
So if I missed it, please forgive me. Is there anywhere in our lease agreement that references the Pop Whalen policy statement? It's connected on the back, but where is it referenced in here? I probably missed it.
It's attached to the document.
But it's not referenced.
It's not referenced.
Okay, so that needs to be addressed. We have another issue. There is no MOU or agreement with the Friends of Kingswood Hockey and the school district, correct?
It's with the town.
My question, there is no MOU with Kingswood Hockey and the school district, correct?
Verbal only.
Verbal only. Okay, so I have an issue then when the lease agreement starts quoting the Governor Wentworth Regional School District's policy manual, doesn't even include all of its policies, doesn't include NHIAA policies, but yet there's no formal agreement with the school district. So who enforces the school district's policies? The school? They don't have an agreement with you. You don't have an agreement with them. This is a huge issue.
Some of what I think you'd be referencing is covered under their agreement directly with Pop Whalen, and not necessarily
Whose agreement with Pop Whalen?
the school's rental of the ice.
The school's rental of the ice comes to the town, and we don't have any of that referenced in our lease agreement with them either. So we have a runaround where nothing is covered and nothing is corrected.
If I may, it also states here that the enforcement is by the coaches. So if there is the policy that we reference, it states that it will be enforced by the coaches.
But
as the coaches are employees of...
Yeah, but you don't have an agreement with the school, so again, what's the mechanism if the coaches are from the school and you don't have an agreement with the school, and we have no purview or control over the school or the coaches? This doesn't work.
Which part exactly?
All of 5D doesn't work. It can't be in this agreement.
Okay.
Well, just to clarify, well, I'll say that D was at the request of the district. The superintendent asked for that specifically to be added, and was otherwise okay with the agreement, but she felt that that was needed to protect the intent and the spirit of specifically that policy of allowing or not allowing people.
So then we need documentation from her. Let's go to the next page, page 3, number 7, And it says alterations and improvements installed in the locker room. Well, what about the TV and the extension cord through the ceiling that's there? What do we do with that? When we sign this lease agreement, is that there, or does that come out in advance? Again, not clear.
Well, that's why we asked for clarification and cooperation with the POP to conduct an end-of-season inventory and inspection of the rooms, which previously was not worded in that fashion.
Another thing, through the document, there's no mechanism for enforcement. So if something doesn't happen, there's no mechanism for enforcement. There's nothing that says we can pull the agreement, we can do this, we can do that, or anything like that. Another thing that we have is gate fees. So gate fees are not defined correctly either, because the parties hereby agree that manage, control, and retain the gate fees and merchandise sales. Gate fees for what? For every game? For NHIAA playoff games? There's rules and regulations from NHIAA. You can't collect the gates from that. Only the school can collect the gates.
So more clarity there would be
So
satisfactory.
you need a lot more clarity in number 10.
That makes sense.
So I think we need to table this and
Brian,
send this back.
there's no vote on this. This is here for the Board of Selectmen to give input, which you did a nice job at. This is not a vote on it today. Okay, you did exactly what we wanted, and that gives Jim and them more time to work and clarity on areas that need to. I think that was good. Does anybody else have any changes or want any other clarity on any other paragraph?
I just have a question. Did these questions make sense to you?
To me, some of these questions make sense to me, but it's a little bit abrupt with the asking the question and then giving us the answer without giving us an opportunity to speak.
Stipulated, but the body of the questions makes sense? Is the
I
way-
think it's a great opportunity to ask questions, yes.
Okay, all right, good.
So do you need a motion to table this?
No, it is in here. This is here for you to have an opportunity to give
Okay.
Jim some direction on how we are reading this and what we feel about it. And if anybody else has any issue with any paragraph, this is the time to help Jim know where we want. We don't want to come and do a finished draft and say, okay, you want it, and you say, no, I don't like this and I don't like that and the other stuff. This is to bring the whole board together on where we want to go on this.
Can I do one more?
Sure.
And I like the idea that we want to get the pencils down by the 20th of November. That's good. That way, well, we all got something we can march towards, right? And so what, just for my selfish interest, what language was suggested that you take out and then put back in? You said you had a meeting with town manager and select person Murray. What language came out? What language went back in?
I don't think a whole lot came out, manager, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think a whole lot came out. It was more an attempt to add clarity in certain areas.
And if I may, it also came to our attention within the first year of being stewards of the locker room that there was some issues with us not being notified of people entering or exiting
Sure.
the locker rooms, and there was an issue with the chain of custody of the keys to the locker room. So we wanted clarity on those issues so that we could monitor who's coming in and out of the locker rooms to make sure that we are taking care of the students and the investment that we've made. So those were some of the reasons and the intent behind some of these additions. The other intent behind the addition, Brian, was when we requested a meeting with the school district because we want to make sure that we are being good neighbors, and we are our intent is to help these kids, but we want to also make sure that everyone's comfortable with what we're doing. So we tried to make some inroads, and that's why we came up with this language, because when you work with children, you want to make sure that everyone that's surrounding the kids are safe. And we want to make sure that people aren't around the kids that shouldn't be around the kids. So we did ask the school how they felt about that. So that's where that language is coming from. Mm-hmm. And I completely agree with you that maybe it belongs somewhere else, but this is a first draft. So that's why we're coming to you. We're trying to do everything the right way and just we're looking for your feedback too.
Yeah, we
So,
need to get,
appreciate that.
I would really like it if we got the school involved in this, some way in shape or form, because if they don't have an agreement with us and they don't have agreement with the Friends, there's a huge hole in this.
Well,
is to the
I did get clarification from legal on that, and relative to the relationship between the school and the town, that is covered under the ICE contract, which the school executes to be able to purchase the ice, regardless of where the children are, whether they're in this locker room, whether they're in the lobby, whether they're on the ice. They have a contract for that ice time, and therefore that contract, to an extent, supersedes this document for the purposes of the relationship between the entities.
I think that's good information. So there's an umbrella agreement that you can reference here.
He said it much better than I tried to.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
He said it much better than I tried to.
He's an eloquent guy.
Yes,
I mean, he's
excellent.
unbelievable. So you have an umbrella agreement that you can reference towards, and I think that might, bullet off a couple of these concerns. I understand your concern about, we want to make sure that wherever the children are, it's safe. We want to make sure the same thing happens. We also want to make sure that the facility continues to provide a safe environment. So we're kind of agreeing on that. We just got to make sure the language is really clear. You know, this idea of maybe something that got stuck through a ceiling and a wire, and I don't want to go there, but that potentially is an unsafe thing, all right? Whether it doesn't violate the relationship, to me, it's an unsafe thing. And so I like this. And I agree, Brian, thank you, Brian, for doing this. And thanks, Jim, for what you did. I think we want to get it done by the 20th. Just want to tighten up the language. You're going to reference something, make sure there's a document out there that you can tie it to.
I think we're missing a piece. I think with this, the board should see the ICE contract.
That would be a great idea.
I think that piece would have helped
That
a
would be
little
a good
bit
idea.
here, so.
You've got it too, right?
We actually do not have a nice
Well,
contract.
I think we all should have that ICE agreement,
Share.
yes. So we need to get and send out the ICE agreement, and when this comes back, the ICE agreement should be attached with it, so we have the whole.
And we should have legal look at our ICE agreement in conjunction with this to make sure that everything goes together.
So he has looked at the ICE contract. He had a preliminary review of the document, which the track changes version you received electronically.
Yep.
They've received electronically. They've made some of the adjustments. They have not seen it. Legal has not seen it since some of these other adjustments have come in. But what I'd like to be able to do is hopefully next week get this thing close to the point of finish.
Yep.
And then get it back off to legal for final review. Reference the policy statement and the ICE contract as appendixes to this, and hopefully we can vote it on the 20th.
And I agree with Linda. I think everybody ought to have a picture or image of this so you can read it. Especially in a legal document, we all shouldn't reference something we haven't read. That would get you in trouble most of the time.
If you need me to, Jim, I can meet anytime you want, and I can go over my concerns.
So I would appreciate that, and what I will do, as you're aware, I'm leaving for vacation, but I will tie you in with Christine to be able to get this across the finish line.
Okay.
And she'll be reaching out to the group to get this.
I wonder whether we need to go to the first one in December. I think your eyes should be on it and work on it.
I didn't hear that.
I said I think that we should not try to rush it, but for November 20th, he's going to be gone the whole time. I think we should wait until the first meeting in December, if that's okay. I'd prefer to get this correct. I'd like to have you have the conversation with town attorney, the review, the time to make sure that we've got this in the language. It's a 40-year agreement, so.
Yeah.
So I have had a preliminary conversation with Christine about moving this. So what I would say is I would like to keep it on the 20th as an agenda item, just as a follow-up.
Okay. I'll do that.
That way, if there's any changes that need to be made from that point, the full board can review it, have the open dialogue, and move.
Okay,
He's creating a forcing function.
yeah.
Everybody's going to get stuff done by a time, no
Well,
slacking.
also, the teams are going to start using the
Yep,
facilities.
understood.
Oh, yeah,
And
minor
already
detail.
have, in fact. So,
But we have an existing
You're right.
agreement
Well,
right now
and-
they're functioning under. I really think we want to get this right, and that's more important than rushing it since there's something that's already there. Maybe not what we like, but I think, have a better understanding.
and for what it's worth, Section 8 references that we think it's a good idea to review this annually and make updates. So if there is an issue, it's part of the plan is to review it on an annual basis.
Does that make sense? So we're now going to have a draft for the November 30th, where we're looking for a vote on the December 4th.
Yeah, November 20th, correct.
20th, okay, yep. All righty?
And is the board okay with me having Christine work with Brian to get all of his?
I don't have any issue with that.
Yep, okay.
That was just going to be my question. You don't want us doing anything, we'll wait to hear from you.
You will hear from Christine.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And could we
All right.
request that we hear from Christine well before November 20th? Thank you.
All righty.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is the execution of a lease agreement for the financing of the groomer.
So Casey's here to speak to you regarding the groomer. I had some correspondence with you, I believe it was last week, regarding the lease for the groomer. We've ran into some issues with the grant, the emissions reduction grant, and as a result, we're going to withdraw from that grant. We are going to try to pursue it post, but there are so many loopholes and stipulations, and the other item is there's a time frame issue that has become very problematic on this. So Casey has the information in front of you with a motion for the resolution. The groomer is scheduled to be delivered before the ski season starts here, and that's about all I can offer at this point. Casey?
In May 2024, the board authorized the purchase of an Abenaki groomer in the amount of $230,000. We did not secure financing at the time because we were trying to secure potential grant monies. We are unable to obtain the grant money and get the machine here because you have to receive the grant money before we need the machine, and we need the machine so we can open the slopes. So we're moving forward with the leasing. We had checked out 2 local banks back in May-June timeframe, and they really don't do municipal leases. And we checked out 2 leasing companies, and we choose to go with Leasing 2, which is the same one we did for the ambulance. The equipment cost is at $230,000. The board had previously authorized a down payment of $75,000 from the Capital Reserve Fund. There is a $15,000 trade-in, which we would not have gotten had we got that grant. So the amount to be financed is $140,000 over a 7-year lease term. The interest rate is 7.48, which is slightly lower than it was in June, so we didn't lose any. It was 7.62% in June. The first payment will be in April 2025 after the down payment in the amount of $25,191.56. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, I have a proposed motion.
Yes, go, Paul.
Thank you. So I think you've answered part of the question. So the grant says, get the groomer, then you get the money. Is that
No,
the way?
it says you have to be approved by the GC before you can purchase or receive the groomer or pay for the groomer.
And we went after this grant circa when?
It was the director of Popwellen, I want to say, over the summer sometime.
It was a July timeframe.
Not to be persnickety, but a long time ago.
Not to be persnickety, but the town put in for a grant as well with the state of New Hampshire, similar grant for demolition at the Pop Whalen Ice Arena, and that grant was awarded, I believe, in April, and we still have not received it. So the problem becomes, even if we're awarded the grant, we don't have the money to be able to buy the machine, and the time frame of the delivery of the funds is very problematic.
Yeah, I was just asking, that, but the terms of the grant were clear back then, right? You had to. Okay.
Yes, but we hadn't
I
applied,
got it.
hadn't been approved.
It's looking in the rearview mirror, probably not useful exercise, but kind of weird. Okay,
I agree, it's very weird. And
very weird.
It's problematic.
Free money is sometimes, there's a lot of hoops.
There's no free.
Linda?
It's not free.
Yes.
So my only question is, for transparency's sake to the taxpayers, what is the net total additional cost now for the taxpayer for all interest and principal that they have to pay for the groomer?
Well, the whole cost of the machine was $230,000, always was.
Yeah.
We never factored in the grant. I'm confused.
He's looking at he's asking you how much interest will the taxpayer pay that will get added on to the principal that we had to pay, and that'll be the full cost to the taxpayer. That's what he's asking you.
Excuse me for 1 minute. There's 42 million forms here that they
Should be the
make you
price of the
sign.
grant.
And I'll make my comment here in terms of this groomer, and it goes back to whether we have that capital reserve large enough and making big enough payments to pay for the equipment that's there. We did not do that for the groomer. We spent it for some other things along the line. I saw we have some draft warrant articles. We need to go back. We need to look at what the equipment is and how much should we be putting aside each year so we don't get caught here again. And that's us as the Board of Selectmen. That's not you, Casey. So did you
No.
find your number?
Yeah, I'm just stepping in for this process because the director wasn't here, but I have been in contact with Bo Betts, who is now in charge of this groomer. I'm just interimly doing this. So it's about $175,000 to finance 140 over 7 years.
So it's 175 plus the down payment of 75, right?
That's minus 15 for a trade-in, yes.
Minus 15 for a trade-in, so it's
A couple $100 grand.
But I would like to
235.
follow up on Linda's comment. So currently, the $75,000 down payment would pretty much wipe out the capital reserve fund. We'll be the plan is to put 25 in every year and take 25 out to pay for this over the next 7 years. Then start funding for the next groomer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would be the plan.
And there is my problem, because we have a spreadsheet that tells us what we're going to, the life expectancy and an amount for all this, and we've just wiped it all out. So I'm not comfortable. I wasn't comfortable at the time. We put the money in for the lights at Abenaki, and that's what happens when we don't have the right costs and a real capital reserve account. So that's coming up, and so we're going to need to take a good look at this as a Board of Selectmen.
I could see you maybe funding the capital reserve fund with more money and having a better plan with the asset management that we're going to be doing all equipment and land and property on.
So there's two, I'm
Go ahead.
trying to follow the ball here. So we're going to ask the voter to write another $200,000 in cash, roughly. Send us another $200,000 over some period of time. I guess that's a decision we have to take. And then the second, which I'll reserve discussion for when we talk about the warrants. I've been out of step here a little bit, but putting money in to just take it out, is that?
No.
Can we do that? We can't do that.
No, well, I think the problem is we have to have a list of the assets, realistic price, useful life. You have X number of things. You add what it would be each year, and that's the amount that should go in the capital reserve account.
I got that. Okay.
Well, we're not doing that.
We're not doing it.
That's where the problem is. We didn't do it. We picked a number, and it didn't represent, and then we spent it on something else before the groomer, so we're in a hole. And no, we should put enough money in that capital reserve account. A, to pay this, and two, to start looking where we need to go with all the other things that are out there that do the snowmaking.
So my problem is this. Now we're going to be paying $250,000 for a groomer. We talked about the grant in public. How much was the grant supposed to be for, Jim?
Up to
56.
25, oh, sorry.
56, wasn't it?
Up to
56.
25%, could have been 57,500, but up to, doesn't mean we were getting
correct,
57,500. And then we lost the 15,000 trade-in because this is a clean diesel grant, so we
Yes.
weren't able to do the trade-in, so it's net what we lost up to 42,500. But you're counting on something we didn't get.
Okay,
I mean,
but what I'm saying is this. We should be careful when we dangle carrots to the citizens of town if it's not going to happen.
I would just back up and say, if you recall, we did come to you first for this purchase without
That's
the
correct.
grant.
Correct, and I remember that, absolutely.
So we did that, and then we had this opportunity for the grant. It was applied for. However, the timeline is not going to work to be able to get that machine here.
I understand. So we're gonna bite the bullet. I'm just saying that we need to be careful when we do this.
But we made the decision to purchase the groomer without the knowledge of a grant. The grant came and we found out, I think maybe a meeting later. So when we made the initial decision, it was not with
Well,
knowing.
if we rewind, we made the agreement to purchase a first groomer that then we missed. Then
No.
we upgraded to a more expensive groomer with a grant.
No.
And then the
price.
grant,
No.
Same price.
yes, yes.
All right, we'll pull out the minutes. The grant came after that.
So the question in front of us is, you want to buy one of these little puppies or not?
No,
given that we're not getting a grant?
no, that
We-
is not the question.
we've
in
bought
front
it.
of you.
What's the question?
The question in front of you is, are you going to sign this lease agreement? You have already signed a contract. The board has already given approval to buy this $230,000 machine.
Yep.
I would think we're not backing out of it. How do you want to
No.
pay for it?
And the alternative is, we don't have one.
Yeah, we need it.
Hey,
We're gonna
wait,
buy it.
no. We're talking about, they've come, he asked a question about interest, we're discussing it. And after everybody is finished discussing it, I'll call for a motion on whether we want to get into this loan. All right, is there anybody else? Brad, Dave, do you have any comments here? Want any questions? All right. Does anybody want to make the motion to go into this lease agreement for $140,000 to finish paying for this groomer that we've already signed a contract for?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, why don't you read it?
So I'm gonna move to execute a lease agreement for the financing of the groomer. How much is the money, Casey?
I'm sorry, it has to be these exact words.
Sorry, wasn't on mine.
do it.
Sorry. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen authorizes Jim Penny, the town manager, to enter a 7-year purchase agreement with Leasing 2 Incorporated to finance a 2021 Pre-North Bison 10 snow groomer in the amount of $140,000 purchased from Pre-North LLC.
Second.
Okay, I need
That's
that.
it sounds like a pretty important groomer. Okay, second.
I seconded. You can't
Yeah,
second.
Now, I have a motion by Paul, a second by Brian. Any further discussion, anyone? I think we took care of it, didn't we? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
I just want to say I do have the motion on May 15th, motion by Mr. Senical to approve moving forward on the purchase of the groomer as presented by Chuck Smith, Pop Whalen Art Center, seconded by Mr. Deshays, approved 5-0. I do have the minutes.
Brian, you seconded it a second time.
Yes.
You're golden, dude.
And there's no grant involved.
There was no grant involved in the discussion.
Okay.
There
I'm-
is also an exit clause in
Thanks,
this
Casey.
lease agreement. If there's no way to fund it, we can exit the lease agreement.
Okay.
right.
I would like to move E up and then do D, do the ad hoc ambulance committee report after, and let Wood and Kern go forward. They're here. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
All righty.
So a couple months back, I met with Steve Randall, I met with Woodward and Curran regarding wastewater treatment plant path forward. They're here this evening to give you a brief presentation on the plant, existing conditions, what they've done over the past several years, and a path forward. Dave, it's all yours.
Nope, thank you. Appreciate the time. We'll try and step through this as quickly as possible, but as you know, Woodward and Curran's had a long-standing relationship with the town, been a key partner for us for over 25 years. Woodward and Curran's been able to grow based on good clients such as Wolfeboro. The treatment plant itself, wanted to talk about some staffing and acknowledgements. This past year, we had a retirement of our plant manager, Russ Howe. He dedicated over 26 years to Woodward and Curran. The majority of that time was at the Wolfeboro treatment facility. So I just wanted to acknowledge the effort he put into this facility, and he did a lot of great things for the town. And through Woodward and Curran, we're appreciative of that, and I know the town's appreciative as well too. So, new staffing, we have the facility. The state of New Hampshire last year passed a legislation that requires you to have the operator license. It's a grade 3 plant, so you have to have at least a grade 3 as an operator responsible charge. You have to have a backup at the same level now. It used to be one level below. So we've got new staff there. Just a quick introduction. We've got Cody. Steve is the site manager now. Cody, Natalie, and Ed Davies is going to help me as the area manager, assistant area manager. And he's got the backup license for the facility. So the town's in good hands. The facility background information. It was built in 1970. It was supposed to be a temporary treatment plant. So we're well into its useful life and well beyond its useful life. It was designed to do about 200,000 gallons per minute in the summer, 100,000 gallons in the winter. The total maximum discharge capacity was 600,000 gallons per day. Activated sludge treatment facility. Biosolids were dewatered and composted. And then we put the RIB system in March of 2009. The current facility flow is averaging about 300,000 gallons per day, a little bit more. I think the peak flow was last year's annual average at 340, which are also consistent with your discharge permit at the RIB site. And we have had peaks over that. We run 2 discharge fields now, spray irrigation field in the RIB site. Again, it's still the extended aeration system. We've made some process changes to make it more efficient. Biosolids we haul off-site for disposal. And then the loading to the treatment plant from TSS BOD loading perspective has been steadily increasing, even though you've done a great job in town of reducing infiltration and inflow. Quick overview. Our influent concentrations is going to be hard for people to see, but it's been well below the design of 600,000 gallons per day. We've got peaks in there that average up over that. But for the most part, over the last several years, the flow to the facility has been 300 to 340,000 gallons per day. So there is capacity in the facility. The treatment plant itself treats the water and discharges it up to the effluent storage reservoir, shown on the right. And with the balancing of the RIB site operation and the spray field operation, we've been able to maintain that level at a good level. Each year we request funding from the town to do some capital upgrades and improvements to the facilities. We were granted money. Each year over the last several years has ranged from $250,000 to $100,000. And with that money in 2023, 2024, we upgraded the effluent pumps. We've replaced those pumps. We've refurbished RAS pumps, which is a return activated sludge, waste activated sludge pumps. We've optimized RIBs. We've optimized the spray fields. We're in the process of upgrading some of the monitoring well network out in the spray areas. We're replacing a variable frequency dive for the effluent pump, and we completed a safety audit this past year, and we're working through the punch list items there. So just some photos we'll go through quickly. The effluent pumps that were received on the left, they're installed and up and running on the right. That was done. We've got replacement pumps that we've ordered and installed, aeration blowers to maintain the aeration capacity of the treatment facility. Historically, we've done a lot for the facility. We upgraded the aeration blowers back in 2006 and in 2007. At that time, there was talk about building a new treatment plant, but that upgrade that was started in 2006 and 2007 and continued through has enabled that treatment plant to meet its effluent compliance. Facility upgrades we did in 2013. You can see on the left that the building was deteriorating, the concrete block was deteriorating. We refurbished the front of that building. And then the prior year, we have the sludge that gets hauled off the site goes in 8,500-gallon tankers. It was dangerous where they would come up to the facility and then they would have to back down and out of the facility. So we were able to work with the town and build a loop road so that trucks can pull in and drive safely through the facility. And again, consistently great effluent results, meeting our permit compliance limits. That's a sample of our effluent water that's discharged to the facility. And I'm going to turn over the next portion of this presentation to Brent. He's going to talk a little bit about some of the upgrades we'd like to do to the facility in a particular evaluation we'd like to get approved to enable us to project out what those next capital costs are going to be so we can continue this treatment plant operating for the next 10 to 15 years. Brent, I'll let you take it over.
I don't want to read your stuff. Brent Bridges, Woodard & Curran. This is a 10-minute presentation. Dave used 6.5 minutes, so I've got to fly through the next 4 slides in 3.5 minutes. I've done it before. I think the last slide would have been more impactful.
Just make it impactful, whatever it is.
If we showed somebody drinking the effluent, when it comes out that clear, I think if we showed somebody drinking it, I think it'd be a more effective slide. We'll work on that next time.
Sounds good.
So I've got 4 slides. And so for those, all the people that love wastewater like I like wastewater, this is your plant from above. So the 30 seconds is wastewater comes in here into the headworks building. We take out everything that shouldn't be there, like rags and wipes and bricks and things like that that go into the stream. We take it out in the headworks building, so we just have water from there. It goes into these aeration tanks. That's where the magic happens. That's where we grow bugs, good bugs, that treat the wastewater. And so they're happy bugs. We blow air in there. We grow them. They treat the wastewater. Once we're done that, it goes into these 2 clarifiers. We decant off the water. We take all the dead bugs that have done their job very effectively, and we collect it in the bottom of these clarifiers. We pump it out to this sludge storage bank. All this clean water that goes down through here gets chlorinated, and we pump it out to the ribs or the spray irrigation. So that is 30 seconds of how wastewater treatment works. And it's important because I think the next couple of slides I'm going to talk about, like, each one of these pieces has a capacity limitation based on when it was originally put in, what your flows and loads are now, and how much you can push through each parts of those pieces today, which I think is an important thing for the town to know. When we met a couple of months ago and walked through the facility and talked to Jim about it and said, hey, what would be an effective piece? There's been 4 different studies done over the last 20 years about looking at the capacity of the system and improvements. And so we thought, like, how do we take the benefit of all those studies, take a look at it one last time? So what would we do to improve upon that? Well, flows and loads. Flows are how much water is going through the system. Loads is how, what the consistency of it, how strong or weak it is as far as the flows. Looking at flows and loads for now and in the future, part of an evaluation. Treatment capacity, take each one of those components I talked about, how much water can we push through each of those elements in order to rate the capacity of the system? Because the weakest point, the weakest link is your limit to capacity. And so we need to find the weakest points and what those weakest points are, what we can do to improve those weakest points. We do a process model that says, as we take it all together and look at future flows, existing flows, what does that look like as far as how that operations work? And then a condition assessment. How does each tank look? How does it structurally look? How do the pipes work? How does the building look? How does all the pumps work? All of those things to say what the condition is, how much life they have left in it. And so ultimately, what we're looking at when we do 2 pieces here, we have a parallel path. And the parallel path is how do we look at each element of the system now, do a capacity analysis, do a condition analysis, and tell you over the next 10 years how much you need to spend each and every year to keep this plant running. Long-term strategic look at the plant. So as opposed to when Dave puts forward on a yearly basis the things they're going to fix, what we're trying to say is let's take a little bit longer view of that. If you continue to invest in this plant, what should you expect on a yearly basis so you can do some planning, do some strategy? So that's the first thing, because if you just wanted to keep it going, the next 10 years, what would it cost? The second part of it is how do we look at overall if you were to do something different than just put money into the plant every year, what would that look like? I have a bias, we at Woodard & Curran have a bias. We think you have a lot of assets in the ground, and what that means is construction costs have gone up 50% over the last 10 years. So you get less for your dollar. We all know that. And so every tank in the ground, everything you have currently in the system is worth a lot of money. Pouring concrete in the ground to great capacity costs you a lot of money. We have a bias. You have good bones at the plant. If you walk through the plant, it's being taken care of really nicely. But as they said, it's a 20-year plant that's going on 50 years, right? That's somewhere the rubber meets the road. And so what we'd look at is say, what would it cost to upgrade this plant? Plan A, next 10 years, how much would you spend every year for the next 10 years in order to keep it going with knowing what you want to get out of it from a capacity standpoint? Because growth is in your future. You don't want wastewater to be the limitation of the things you want to do. You'd like other things, your choices, to be the limitation of what you want to do. You don't want wastewater capacity to be that. And so part two is, after we do that, is what would an upgraded plant look like? I say upgraded. We have a bias. New plants are tough. New plants are tough. You know, all engineers want to design a new plant. It's not usually the best, most cost-effective use of money for communities. You have good bones in the ground. You have tanks in the ground. They're in pretty good shape. Let's make sure we can use that. Let's upgrade what we have as a comparison to, let me spend money every year for the next 10 years, keep it going. Let me see what it might look like if I was upgrading the plant to get that same thing that might take those high annual capital investments off the table for a while, right? So lastly, is we talked about it, say schedule, and I know I've gone over my time, but flows and loads, do a real detailed look at everything you've got as far as what the flow is going through it, what you see in the future, what the strength of the waste is. We know every year people use less water, but the higher strength of wastewater. So it's higher strength stuff coming to you. It's less of it, and so you need to deal with that. That puts some capacity issues on things. So condition assessment, we'll look at every piece of material you have at the plant to determine the capacity, how much length of life it has, and what would need to be done to upgrade it. We'll do a report that'll talk about all those things, where that 10-year plan meets the what's it going to cost to upgrade the facility for your future. And then we'll also talk about what funding might look like. The reason we put a 20-week period on this is most of the time, from a funding standpoint, if you wanted to position yourself for the potential for the funding that's out there, spring is the time to do it. March is the time those applications open and are ready to go. So you'd like to be in a position to say, hey, depending on what my choices are, I'm ready to go. I have some information I can share if the town were to want to put in funding applications to help with some of the cost of this. That's as fast as I can talk. Questions?
Yes.
Yes.
And I know that you were using some levity in your conversation about clean water, but we had a virologist come when we had our meeting, and the virologist told us that every virus that goes through our sewer system ends up in our treated wastewater regardless. So I just want people to understand that when you say clean water, you mean treated water.
Treated water, right, treated water. I was being very much as far as showing that clear water as far as drinking it.
Yeah, we
yes.
don't want people drinking it.
Don't want you drinking the water. It's very clean. I think Dave's demonstration says it's really clean. What they do there keeps it really clean. It's clean water. Yeah. Thank you for that, Ryan.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Just curiosity. Okay.
Yeah.
So the biosolids, Where do they go? And is there a trend of more cost to dispose of biosolids?
Yes, and, yeah, Dave.
So I'll just take that. So right now, the biosolids are being hauled
Wait a minute.
to a
Casey's playing a video down back here. What's it?
to a facility down in Massachusetts through a contracted hauler. At that facility, they dewater it and then they incinerate it. The cost of biosolids, we monitor pretty closely with the disposal. We've looked at options as thickening or developing our own cake at the facility, and that'll be part of the evaluation we do long-term. But the cost of biosolids has significantly been going up over time.
It's going up over time to
It has.
dispose of.
Fortunately, this current cycle, we have a cost-plus fixed-fee contract. We were able to do it a little bit cheaper this year than the prior year. And again, that goes back to some of the flow and loadings. But for the most part, in general, the biosolid costs have been increasing and regulations have been
I
increasing.
figured as much, but thanks for that. And I have a second question.
Yep.
So if I do the math, and it's really not hard math to do, but I may have gotten it wrong. So the plant's got a 600,000 capacity. We're running at about 57% of that right now. That roughly speaking, at 340,000 a day. Clearly, it seems to me you don't want to run the plant at 100% of its capacity. You have to have some reserve for stuff, right? So is it an 80%, 70%, 80?
So the state requires that once you hit 80% flow, you have to have a plan in place
Okay.
to expand. Right?
So really, the headroom here is the distance between,
Like 480,000.
okay, so for 340 to 480, that's our headroom.
Yeah, but we can't dispose. You're looking at one piece of it.
I didn't
Well,
finish the
if,
equation yet, sorry. So our headroom is that.
Yes.
But the problem is, we can't figure out where to put it.
You don't have one disposal location that can accept all of that flow.
Okay, so we while it's to your point earlier, or your point earlier, all these pieces have to be kind of summed up. The quick math would say, well, you got 140,000 gallons of headroom. The answer is no, we don't, because we can't figure out where to put it once we process it. So the whole supply chain's got to get looked at. So right now, we are standing pat at the moment.
Right. You're
Just wanted to
fortunate
make
because you
sure I
have two
understood.
disposal fields. You still have the spray irrigation site, which has been valuable, and it's a great multi-use facility. Now, to your point, we put up signs, no,
Don't drink
stay
the
away to
water.
certain areas during spray irrigation season, and
Yeah, don't drink and shower in the water.
don't drink and shower. Right?
but I think the other thing is when you talk about our disposal, we've done huge number of studies on disposal and where we would go for more disposal and the cost of that. And if we need to get that out. That piece, we're able to stay within the disposal we have, which is, I think we probably can do, 300 and, do we get to 400?
So the rib site itself, I think over annual average could do 340,000 gallons per day on an annual average.
Right.
Which you're bumping up against.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
have to have, once you hit 80% of that capacity, you got to look for more. You
Yeah.
still have the spray areas, so you're in good shape in the sense that you have both systems. And if you looked at the picture that I had in there, the effluent storage pond level, that used to have years where it got right up to almost spilling. And we've been able to keep that level, below 40 million gallons of capacity. So
The reason we were almost spilling was we had non-functioning RIB sites, so it wasn't that we weren't paying attention of what was going on there. But if you add our 340 for the RIBs, I think it's about 30 for the spray fields a year. We're looking about a capacity of no more than 400,000 gallons per day for our effluent disposal with what we have right now before we go do anything else. So the plant size and our effluent size kind of fit where we are right now.
correct.
Jim, do you remember where on our CIP a possible upgrade to the sewer plant?
So I can't remember right off the top of my head, but this is what thrust this conversation going forward. If you recall, a couple years ago, we came forward with a CIP estimating the replacement of the plant was $12 million. There was a question whether or not we should do a bare bones plant, and a bare bones plant would cost us $6 million. and it would not qualify for a lot of the state revolving loan fund and grant funding because it doesn't meet that higher echelon. So that's why we brought this forward to say, look, as they said, we've got good bones in this plant. Does it make sense to continue to nurse this along or to look at pulling the trigger on that $12 million that was estimated a couple years ago? Regarding the debt service on the sewer side begins to fall off in 28 to 29. So I was, if I remember correctly, we were looking at a 26 or 27 CIP plan for looking at the plant.
Okay,
So,
that's, wait, no, I'm
Okay,
not
yeah.
done. That's number one. The second piece is, we were looking for a capacity study of the water and sewer. This is not it. This is just the analysis, even though they're going to look at the capacity of the plant. Do you have a date? Or when do you see the capacity study coming for the water and sewer, which we need to get over to planning?
I can't give you a date right now.
Okay.
Can you give us one soon? Not to put you on the spot.
What's that?
Paul wanted to know, can you tell us soon when that's going to come?
Or is that not in the cards?
Next week?
No, stop.
I'm just teasing.
I can, let me have a conversation with a couple people.
And I'm interrupting Brian, and I apologize, but I think what we're all getting asked, you're an innocent bystander to this.
Yeah.
Is, you know, we want to grow we have a question about where we put housing. We have a question about where we grow. We have a question, lots of those things. And there's a knee-jerk reaction that says, we got a 600,000 gallon system. We could probably just double the capacity on it. Well, no. For the reasons you said, and I call it the Tilton fear factor. We're going to have to dig a hole in the ground and pipe it all over to Tilton. The Tilton fear, we can't. And so we have the same question for the water side, and that's not to poke at Jim, but we probably do need to know what we got to work with so that we can lay that over on our planning function and have a relevant conversation. You're innocent bystanders to this. Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, Brian.
No, that's fine. So here's my question. I own 2 vehicles. I have one old junky one, and I buy a new one. My question is, would it be possible to build a facility adjacent to this facility, build it over a period of time, and transition from old facility to new facility?
Absolutely, that's an option.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just land.
Yes.
So, because then we spread it out over 5 years of construction, 6 years. I don't know how long we could spread it and make it work so that we don't hit the taxpayers with a huge price at one time.
Yeah, that part would be tough, because the longer you spread out a construction project, the more the costs are going to go up.
They are.
Usually, you'd like to design it and build it and get out. So
One thing I'll say, so the work we'd do is, we wouldn't, when we're looking at the kind of 10-year, keep putting money into it, upgrade it, build a new one, the build a new one would be part of this option. We'd still have to put that in there, because anytime that you wanted to demonstrate why you're doing, you have to make sure you've explored the other option. The only thing I'd say about the whole building over time is, depending on funding that's available, you may not want to do that, because you'd limit yourself to say, hey, I can get 20% forgiveness for this. If I build it over time, I get 0. And so we'll model those financial, part of it, I didn't put that in here, but we'll model the financial scenarios for each of these 3 things to talk about what available funding might be depending on this, which might change the decision you want to make. And so I didn't put that in there, but we'll do financial modeling as part of each of those 3 scenarios. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, my father's an economist, and he's always about cash flow.
Brad?
Yeah, one of the thought I have in an approach on this too is I've always been a big proponent of I&I, to help take care of some of the inflow and infiltration here. To that extent, would that, because you'd be getting less volume of water coming into the plant, obviously, if we can, minimize our inflow out here in the old sewer lines that we have, would that affect I guess, would it affect the life of the plant, or, working with a lower volume of water, do you feel that it'd extend the life of some of these portions of the plant a little bit longer to be able to stretch out the life of it? I guess another part of that question too is if you're getting probably a higher concentrated effluent in there with less, clean water, diluting it, does that make the plant work harder too or not at the same time? So there's kind of a couple things just to think about questions I have anyway.
Yeah, no, it does, and I'll let Brent weigh in if he wants to add to what I'm saying, but, you've done a great job of I&I, and you saw that in one of the earlier slides, where the flows and the peaks that we have are much lower than they used to be over time. So from a hydraulic standpoint and from a pumping capacity standpoint, the pumps don't have to cycle on and off as much because they're pumping less water. It does help extend that life of the time. And from a loading perspective, we're still getting the same amount of loading, lower flow, so it's more concentrated. In that case, the aeration system needs to be more efficient.
Right.
We do have some expanded capacity in the aeration basins. One of the photos shows the aeration diffusers, and every third diffuser is a blank. So when we put that upgrade in, we did it with some additional aeration capacity in mind for the future. I think what we're talking about with this proposal here, regardless of building a plant in 10 years from now, if you build a brand new plant, it's having capital to get this existing plant running, and keep it running efficiently for the next 10 years till you get to that point B. And you don't have surprise expenses and costs that come up and the stuff that you're not planning for.
Right.
And there's vulnerabilities in the plant at any time that could cause issues, and we want to have a plan in place that helps to continue that investment until you get to that larger spot at the end. And we think there's a lot of good pieces and components to the facility that might translate into the future plant as well.
And we have spent over $1 million.
Right.
The first thing was $1 million, and we're past that in putting the money in. So we've invested a lot, and the plant is in the condition it is because we took a multiple-year look at it at that point in time.
Yeah, if you remember back in 2006, 2008,
Yes.
you were looking at building a $12 million plant.
Correct.
And that 12 million never got built. We extended, probably spent close to $3 million with all the money we spent
Probably.
over time, but that's still a lot less than 12.
Yes. Dave, do you have any questions on this at all? No. Does anybody else have any questions? Paul?
I have one, and please don't answer it. And if you could send a link to Jim, I'd like to read it if it's available. So we have this municipal community, and there's a lot of them around the country, and they're all probably struggling with the same issue. The issue is, do you take this monolithic treatment system, make it bigger, or do you do something else? And is there a, don't answer it because we'll get into this, we'll go crazy here. Is there a conversation or some work that's out there that says there's a distributed option that has to be looked at either for the processing of stuff, the moving of stuff, or the disposal of stuff? And the moving could be in and out. The processing is at some facility or set of facilities. Is there any, I hate to use the word scholarly, but I'll do it just for the hell of it. Is there anything out there that I could read that tells me there might be a different trend in the way things are going? Please don't answer. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll follow up.
Okay, thanks.
Jim, are you looking for anything tonight?
No.
I see a price here.
No, so, and I think
We see a number.
one of the takeaways is, I pulled it up, the wastewater treatment plant is scheduled for $12.1 million in 2029.
29, okay.
This is $77,500 to take and look at an option of, do we renovate in place, or do we go ahead and rebuild the plant? I think this is a timely conversation, because if we go forward with a new plant, how long is it going to take us to get that thing engineered and in front of the state for revolving funds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? That's going to take a few years. So I do think that 29 sounds like a long time away, but this report will come to us probably in a year and have us ready for moving forward with securing funds to do the engineering.
So So you're going to bring this back at another time for a vote on? I'm trying to find whether you want us to
I think you will
move.
see it in a discussion in the warrant articles.
This is a warrant article, whether we want to spend
I
$77,500.
think that's what you will see, is that as a part of the sewer treatment plant.
Capital Reserve Fund? Okay, that's what I was looking for. So we would be looking at this, might be what we take out of our Capital Reserve Fund. And we will see it in the warrant article that that's one of the things we're going to do. Okay?
Sounds like a plan.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great job.
Okay. All right, we'll go back to D, the Ad Hoc Ambulance Committee update, and who's going to do that?
So I'll kick it off. The Ad Hoc Ambulance Committee has been meeting. They do intend on coming in front of you on November the 20th with a brief presentation as to where they are at with the ambulance service question. I as well have for you a letter outlining some of the work that's been done by MRI to this point, laying out some timeline and some findings. And it is timely based on warrant article time frame. And I'm not sure if Brian and/or Paul would like to speak. And I do believe the chair is here this evening from the Ad Hoc Ambulance Committee as well.
Me? You go first.
An honor. Jim nailed it, so MRI has come back and gave us a draft of what will be a full report. I guess it's going to be, multi-pages. Wait. Brian and I also met at the request of the committee to generate a kind of a checklist of things the committee needs to touch on as they come forward to the board. I provided that to Jim a few weeks ago, and Jim, if you could be so kind, maybe is to attach it to the minutes. Brian and I have.
To what minutes? These?
Yeah, if you want.
Well, we haven't seen it. I do mind.
Then we'll pass it out next meeting for discussion.
Well, if we pass it out tonight, I can look at
I
it.
don't have it.
Okay.
I gave it to Jim 2 weeks ago.
Okay, well, then it
So
goes.
Jim, ball in your court. So Brian and I have not voted on the recommendation that the committee's working on. And the reason for that is, at least, and I'll speak only for myself, I want to vote with all of you. I want the benefit of your wisdom on this before we vote. But you'll see something on the 20th. The team is, in a positive way, thrashing to get the presentation together. That's all I have.
So, Jim, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, Jim brought a proposal.
1 year ago. It was last year.
Last year, just a year ago?
Time flies.
That's correct.
He brought a proposal to the board with what he thought was a good recommendation for how we could transition to an ambulance service. He did it based on his experience as a fire chief and having something similar under his belt in Littleton. Now, the Chief Zotti came to us with a second recommendation on how he thought the town could transition to a fire-based system. Both of the proposals showed us that the main reason for even considering this is because private ambulance services are leaving the state of New Hampshire and they're leaving the country as a whole, as insurance payments are not being lucrative enough for movement of patients from home to healthcare facilities, to hospitals. So it seemed like both groups, Jim as our town manager and Chief Zotti, were on the same direction but had different plans. So what our ad hoc committee is doing is looking at those plans, looking at the summary of the MRI report that just came to us, that talks about what our potential solutions are going forward. And it looks like a good compromise is starting to be developed by the ad hoc committee. I think it pulls in pieces of the MRI report, even though we didn't have it until just recently. It pulls in pieces from Jim's knowledge. It pulls in pieces from Chief Zotti's understanding what the needs of his department are. And that's where we are right now, and they will be bringing a finished plan to us sooner rather than later.
And I'm going to need to get the November 20th agenda. So we're going to get that MRI report and the committee's report, and that's what we're going to have on November 20th?
You're
You'll have
getting the
just a
MRI report tonight.
We're getting the MRI tonight. Okay, you're going to hand it to us tonight.
It's just a summary, correct?
Yeah, initial findings.
Yes.
Report.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the initial findings. It will take them several weeks more to get the full-fledged report with extensive data and whatnot.
So let me go back, and I'm just trying to get my agenda.
I've got it listed for the agenda for the 20th as well, Linda, and this initial findings report, the committee saw it on Monday, I believe it was Monday, and you're getting it tonight.
Yeah, and so what we're going to get now, Paul, and is that what you gave him? You wanted attached to these minutes, Paul?
So 2 weeks ago, Brian and I met. The committee asked us to generate, not representing you, but to generate a, kind of a checklist of questions. I provided that over to Jim. And Jim, if you want to provide it to the Board of Selectmen, I'd appreciate you doing that.
And is that what?
It's kind of like a checklist, Linda. It's like a checklist saying, here's the questions that we expect to get answered.
And do you want, are we going to review that on the November 20th? You wanted, the reason I'm after it, because you wanted it attached to these minutes.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to, you want us to add your list.
Yeah, so the list is...
Okay, I just getting clarity.
Yeah, to summarize it, it's, they tasked us, the ad hoc committee tasked us as select board members to give our best idea of what we thought would be pertinent questions and pieces of information that the select board would want to ask or have answered for them when a presentation comes to them for a report.
Okay.
We can't speak for you. We don't know exactly what questions you'll have. You'll have your own questions, but we did the best of our ability trying to cover as many bases as we could.
And that sounds great. I just want to make sure it gets on the agenda. So we have that. And are we going to get recommendations from the committee, ambulance committee then also, or is it just going to go over that list?
You're going to get a recommendation.
We're going to get a recommendation on the 20th.
That's my understanding.
Okay, all right. So we're going to go over their questions and have a recommendation. Okay. All righty. Any other comments on that one?
I'm not sure if you want to hear from the chair or not of the committee.
If the chair would like to come, we'd love to hear from him. Her? No?
No.
I get them. All right. We're moving on. All right. Now we're going to go to the Department of Public Works Capital Project update.
That would be you guys down there.
Good evening, Steve Randall, Public Works. If it is okay with you guys, as we go down through these, I'd like to skip the two pump station projects and put those on last, because there'll be a little bit more discussion with those.
Okay. Sounds
The other
good.
ones are fairly straightforward. Okay, so the first one on our list is the water treatment plant upgrade from 2022. And that project is now complete. We are just doing the final closeouts with DES for reimbursements and final payouts. So we should have all that closed out by the end of the month. Everything is spent. We may have a couple bucks there, but we'll skip Mill Street, Laner Street. Warrant Article 12 from 2022, seasonal water lines. Town manager and I met with DES a couple weeks back. We've got some back and forth responses with them. We have a plan to go forward to utilize these funds to try to move forward our seasonal water line discussion from earlier in the year. And then we will schedule some more meetings, public meetings, and then probably some neighborhood meetings specific to those areas going forward. Those funds I plan to spend by December 31 before it expires. The next one we have is from 2023, warrant article 17. Nope, I'm going to skip that one too.
Yep, it all goes together.
2023 warrant article 18. We have a little bit of money left that GW Brooks is doing for us that will also be expired here shortly and closed out. Green Street project is complete. We have $50,000 left on the water side that we're working on doing some plans to that feed that water system through there for upgrades. So I'm working on that.
Did you?
Yes, sir.
Can I talk a little bit about town road upgrades?
Sure.
You want to cover it, or you want me to talk about it?
Which would you like? Would you like me to run that down a little more?
So I'm looking at town road upgrades, and the roads that pop up, other than Pleasant Valley Road, of course, rebuilds, Haynes Hill, Cotton Valley, Beach Pond, parts of Stoddard, Cowper. So it's really not town road upgrades. It's one upgrade and the rest are rebuilds. Is that kind of the way you do the math?
Well,
and if I took those sum of all those ones you had to do, which were monstrous rebuilds, how much of that budget got eaten up?
So when I say rebuilds on those, that isn't necessarily from, part of that is from the storm damage, 100%. So we got $1 million worth of damage out of that budget. I would have to back out what we paid for Pleasant Valley, and all the rest of it went to that.
Yeah. So and I'm picking at the words, not at your
Sure.
actions, because your actions are unbelievably great, and I mean that. But we really didn't do a lot of upgrades. What we did is a lot of, it's busted, we got to fix it.
Correct.
Okay, and if you and of that 850,000, that include the extra two?
I'm sorry?
That's the following year.
No, that's a different
You
year.
got to stay in the right year.
850,000.
Yes.
You sum up all those ones we had to repair. There wasn't much upgrading going on.
Correct.
Okay, and I'm not trying to be inflammatory, just trying to make sure we understand what we're talking about. So, okay.
But in that one, he doesn't say upgrades.
Well, it says it over here.
Well, it's the warrant article is called Town Road Upgrades.
Well, we better, it's the wording of the warrant article
correct.
than the job.
Yeah.
So we should take,
That was where I was poking.
And so,
okay, I'm fine with that.
I think I'd like to clarify something too. When you do a repair on a washout or something from storm damage or whatnot, you build it better, from what I've seen, than what was there before.
Correct.
So you are doing repairs, as to Paul's speak, but you are also doing it so it
Upgrading.
doesn't happen again.
Yes, I think I understand where he is going with this. Versus this year, our town road upgrades were planned projects that we did. Last year, they were reactive based on the storm damage. Correct. So there is a difference in,
Yep.
Storm damage this year. I can use Beach Pond Road as an example of what we did or how we did it. But there's a fine line in there between what our warrant article town road upgrade money is and what the operating budget of town road maintenance is.
Yep.
So, and because the facility, the only way that we had to fix said roads last year was with this 850.
I got it. I'm with you.
That's what we have.
Can I do one more?
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, so the simple rubric here would be to say, pull out the road service management plan and kind of open it up and go, upgrade, 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 upgrade. Right now, looking at this, you didn't get to some of those things that you wanted to.
Oh, no. No, absolutely not.
Okay, all right, good. It's kind of like an analog to what our colleagues down here just said, we can do the year-over-year stuff, but you're trying to figure out how to do the multi-year. And if we have these storms, it blows up your plan, pardon the pun.
Of course.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
In our multi-year stuff is great, but we can't really work on a multi-year plan until after our vote. Then we know what we have, then we can do it. So, it's very truncated.
Yep, thank you.
Are we done? Okay. And you did green. I think we're on to the sewer line extension.
Varney Forest Road project is complete. We have money coming back, or not spent. That's going to be returned of roughly $263,000. We have still have a little bit of punch items for those guys, but it's not monetary. It's, so.
Yeah.
So that one is complete. Like I said, we're about 263 under budget. South Main Water. Where are we at here? Yeah, water main replacement, sorry, I lost my place. So the main is all in, it is pressure tested, it is chlorinated, and people are drinking off of it right now. The fire hydrants are still out of service until the full line is complete. If you see them, they'll be tying in houses as we go. They're working downtown to stay away from, so they can get that done before the Christmas tree comes, before the parade comes. We are on track right now to be done before Thanksgiving. And that is the goal. And for anybody that's watching and that is asked, everything that is out there is temporary pavement only. It will be remilled and it will be repaved before winter. That is part of the deal. But for anybody that has been through there, and if they may also wonder, when you put a water main through, they put the main line in, then they have to come back and they have to dig it up again and tap it for every single service. So you put it in, you dig it up. You put it in, you dig it up. So to have everything paved perfectly on the first time doesn't always happen. The goal is to make sure that everything is safe, crosswalks and pedestrian crossings. There is some speed bumps and there is some speed dips that will be taken care of before winter. That is a mandate from us, from Public Works, the town, and also DOT, since that is a DOT road.
And that it's going to be just the areas that's dug out. The whole street isn't going to get repaved.
Correct.
It's just
this
those.
is only going to be a trench patch versus what they did. And then in the spring, you will see them back again because the temp water main that was put in this spring will then be removed and all those cross pipings will be taken out. So this still will happen again in the spring, a much shorter duration, hopefully a lot less disruptive to everybody. But over the course of the next few years, we are going to bring forward our sewer main portion of that, and then our complete streets portion of that, which at the end of that process, if everything goes through, we will then have brand new streets, brand new sidewalk, brand new everything.
Okay.
And the sewer line goes down a different spot than the water.
Correct.
That's
the sewer
in the
line
same.
runs pretty much down the middle of the road.
Yep.
All right, this is not my fault.
Let's make it.
Our new county commissioner, Harold Parker, asked me to ask you, can we paint arrows on Central Ave when things are repaved and you're doing things when you're finishing this up?
Arrows?
Harold Parker.
No, arrows.
Arrows.
Can you, arrows where?
Because if you look on a map, you can see where there's designated arrows for
You mean
one lane.
the turn section?
Yes.
Yes. Once it's all done, it will be, there's no point in painting it now.
Yeah, I know.
They've dug it up 3 times and it's winter.
He's
But
asked
yes,
me. He's asked me a
course.
couple of times.
We paint the arrows every spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay, any other?
I told him I'd ask.
Okay. I guess we're on to the next road one.
2024 Article 16, Town Road Upgrades. So what we've done this year is we also received a $50,000 highway block grant. That's what I used to purchase our iWorks asset management software. We did some of the light pole installation stuff down the Back Bay parking lot. And then Haynes Hill, we reclaimed it, re-gravelled it, redid all the new culvert crossings from top to bottom. It has now got the layer of 2.5 inches of binder on it. We are actively doing the shoulder graveling before winter and starting to tie in all the driveways. We did the top coat on Pleasant Valley Road, and then we upgraded drainage and gravel on Brackett Road, New Garden Road, and then we also rebuilt and updated the pond out behind Harvest Market, cleaned that. We did the Townsend Outfall Dam project and fixed the outfall scour. And we had to do the emergency 900 feet of drainage on Beach Pond Road last month.
Any questions on that one? Okay, keep
And as of right now, we have $100,000 left that I will spend between now and December 31st.
Yeah. All right, go on.
South Main Street, 2024 Article 8, South Main Street Sewer Engineering. The design is still underway. Flow testing has all been done, so we're taking those numbers from the flow testing, putting them in along with what we've done for camera work down through there to see if maybe some of it can be relined instead of replaced, catch basins replaced, so we're actively in that process right now. Highland Terrace, water main is in, operational, working on the punch list items now. That is going to skid in somewhere right around budget.
He's got one.
And then Jockey Cove,
And then I'll let you finish.
the engineering down there is still underway.
When is that engineering going to get done?
I am hoping to get that answer shortly.
I have
Paul.
a question on Highland Terrace.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
go right ahead.
And it's just a memory question. Did we have a pressure issue up on Highland Terrace?
We do.
And does this solve it?
No, this is not a pressure issue.
That's
This
what
was a
I didn't
water
think so. We just
this
put
was
it-
a water quality issue. So what this does is created that loop from Maplewood Extension through to Highland Terrace. So now the water will flow through. We had a couple people up there that had bleeds on their houses.
I remember.
So to keep the water quality better. So that's gone away.
But we still have a pressure issue up there.
It's better, and but it's still not fantastic.
Got it. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions or comments on this section? Steve's not done. We have the pump stations. Do you want to go through your memo on that and where you are on these?
Yep, I would like to jump back up to 2023 warrant article 17, where we had a balance of funds. I'm sorry. This was money from the RIB allocation to help the pump station overrun that was voted in March of 23. So that 648,000 is now going to get split between the two pump stations. We're going to take 150,000 of that and put that to Laner Street. What that will do is fully fund Laner Street. T-Buck Construction has the contract for that. We are signed. We are going through the submittal process. They are in at $95,000 right now. $950,000 right now.
Yeah, 95
for their contract
would be
price.
great.
I'm sorry?
95 grand would be nice.
Yes, it would.
Yeah, thanks.
They are looking at, based on submittals, turnaround and construction of the precast at around a February start now. I talked to them today. And then construction throughout for that. Obviously, we have the pump station, we have the generator, we have all that stuff. We have possession of that, we bought that, and it's on town property. So Laner Street is sitting in good shape. Now let's move on to Mill Street. So I typed up a little memo for you guys with a set of monies. How we got to where we are and what we're going to need to do to get to where we need to be. Got your calculator.
Lost mine already.
So a little background, 2022, this was proposed, voted in to a warrant article, 1.68 million. When I came on board, we sat down with HDR, we looked at it, and we were over budget. That was in the fall. So we fast forward through, we have the RIB money back and forth. We lost our contractor when we had issues with our engineers, I'll be honest. And we lost that window, and we are now going to go out to rebid in hopefully within the next month. My goal is to have the bids back in before Christmas. So what we have done is we've now had Stantec come on board. We got rid of the old engineer. We have Stantec on. They're not redesigning anything. They're not redoing any of that. All of our permitting, all that stuff is into place. What Stantec is going to do is do the construction oversight versus what our previous engineer was going to do. Now, you guys may know this is federal money. Federal money comes with a lot of strings. One of them is independent engineer oversight. Yes. That's why we have one. They need to go through DES vetting process and the whole 9 yards. So what we did to come up with our budget number, we took the bids that we received in November of '23, which from Kingsbury, PBR, T-Buck, and Apex. We took the 4 of them and we averaged those out to get our number of just over 2 million. We then took the engineer's monthly index number, building cost index, of which in October of '23 was running about 3.6%. We did bump that up to 4% to average. Then we looked at, so in November of '23, we're looking at just over 2 million. November of '24, if we were going to put it out to bid, we're at 2.14. Fall of '25, which is when we think this will actually start construction, we're looking at almost 2.25. So that is where we started with that number of 2.25. We then throw in soil and groundwater management, which is required, which was not in the original contract. Brings us to 2.3. Our construction oversight, which was not in the original concept, of 455. Brings us to, I'm going to round it, just under 2.8 million. So if you go back to where we are at, we take what we...
Construction, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
What is construction oversight? Just
So construction oversight is
Stantec?
Is Stantec. They come in, they're the ones that monitor all the construction, all the approvals, all the submittals, all the paperwork.
They monitor or they actually do it?
They monitor.
We have to do it.
We don't do it.
Who's
The
doing it?
contract.
That's whoever gets
One of
the
these
bid.
companies are doing it?
Yes, whoever gets the bid.
So they're watching what they did?
Correct. Quality control.
And that's because it's federal money.
It's federal money.
That's what you said
So
earlier.
on the flip side to that, with Laner Street is our money, and we are doing that in-house. So anyway, fast forward to where we sit today. Where we sit today is we have a balance in the account right now of 1.329 million. We have $108,000 that we moved over from our ARPA grant left over from Port Wedland that we didn't spend. They let us transfer that over. We take that along with the 498 that we have left over from Mill Street, from the RIB, puts us at a shortfall of about 900.
Shortfall of what?
900.
900.
Linda? Okay.
Yes, go right ahead.
Steve, also, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about, we've gotten, I believe we've got 2 extensions for the opera grants and stuff
Yes.
like that they've allowed us to extend the money out. They talked about possibly finding some more funding. Is that still on the
I
table?
had a meeting on Monday, and we're trying to see if we can get more money from them and put that into the same deal. I don't have the answer for that yet.
That 900,000 is after we've used all the money we were going to get from the
Correct.
state. And what we're hoping for is that they might have more against that 900,000. Yeah, go ahead.
Another thing too, Steve, is is there a time frame we have to use a certain amount of that?
Yes.
And so I think we talked before about possibly, sole sourcing some of the equipment out to use up to.
So the 2 parts of that, Brad. One, the 648 that we have from this spring expires, or that warrant article expires December 31. So we're going to spend the 648 over the course of the next couple weeks, next month, getting a lot of this stuff going. By May of 25, we have the, I didn't write that number down, but it's like 722,000 now with the 108 that we transferred over. It gets a little squirrely. That expires in May of 24.
Right.
With the extension we got from DES.
25.
May 25.
Yeah.
25. The other stuff we have plenty of time on.
Right.
So if we can get this awarded this year, and then we then can have the contract signed, we are fine on the ARPA money that expires in May, because I will be able to allocate that in advance.
Yep.
So the goal is to get our contract, get them out to bid, get it back in, get it awarded and everything, hopefully by the end of the year. The flip side to that is DES has to approve every step of all of this, which means the Stantec contracts, the oversight from everything. Everything goes through them with this. So we have also talked to them about trying to expedite this process because of the time constraints that we are on, and they are have been very, very good to deal with.
Okay.
As long as we spend these funds based on their required timeline, they can't pull the funds back once they've been promised to us, can they?
No, they cannot.
Okay.
So again, as long as I spend it, we're fine. And in this particular project, like Brad said, if we need to, we can sole source parts. I am hesitant to sole source parts or to purchase parts on behalf of the town versus going through the contractor, because then that gets the whole warranty process gets a little muddy. And I would rather not do that if we can help it. But we'll do whatever we need to do to not lose funds.
I do that at work all the time. I'm working on $1 million project right now and buying materials here and there for everything. And
Yeah, again, I would like to avoid it.
Does anybody else have any? I want to thank you, Steve, for doing this. It gives us a very clear picture that we've taken into different consideration, and that this number that we have now and the shortfall is it. We're going to be able to do it. We're not coming back one more. Yes, right.
So the other part of this is we actually have some contingencies built into this. In case we get another round of escalation, we get another this, we get another that. We have taken that into consideration to be proactive in this approach, because I don't like this. I don't want to have to ask for money. I don't
So-
like that. Yes.
So I think this will make it easier for us to be able to explain to the public and the voters, and it's nice to have that in hand. Everybody asked all their questions?
I second Linda's compliments.
Yep.
Thank you.
very transparent. That's what people need
That's
to
the goal.
see.
That's the goal.
That's what people need. We have to be an
I
open
just
book.
lost my agenda. Oh, here it is. Got too many pieces of paper on it. Steve, thank you very
Thank you.
much for
Thank you,
that. And it's nice to get the capital projects report, because that's another document we have, and we can answer people's questions on where we are on those projects. All right, the next item on the agenda is the draft of the Route 28 matrix. This is what I put together from my notes from our meeting. The reason it's on the agenda, I want to give it to each of you, the board. I want you to look it over. I may have missed things in here. This is what I heard, and I'd like to add, if people want other things added in any of these columns, I would like to get that put together. And this is, I do it in public here. You all see it. You have the opportunity to do that and give it to me. Yes, and the other thing is we need to decide, where do we go from here? We have, the question is, do we want to have another work session? Do we want to have a meeting with the public? You know, we talked about writing warrant articles, so I was kind of saying, okay, I don't want another night meeting. And I was wondering whether it made sense for us to meet maybe an hour before one of our regular meetings and take a look at this, play around with warrant articles. I just wanted some direction on the board where they wanted to go from here.
So tonight is a homework assignment.
This is a homework assignment, and the question before you, what's our next step? Do you want to review this in a work session? Do you want to write the warrant articles, bring draft warrant articles for a work session? I can draft warrant articles. You and I could go together and do.
Can we have a 1-hour work session with the public
Yeah.
coming to it?
We can do it whatever way, yes, if you,
So
I
that they
mean,
give us their input as we brainstorm and show them what this is about?
I wouldn't call it a work session, because usually work sessions, we don't take public input.
so-
I would say we would start our meeting early, and the first item on it would be to work on this and set an hour time frame for it.
Yeah. Maybe not even an hour, we might only need 40 minutes or,
Well, I got to
Whatever.
put some kind of time frame on it.
Well, I think that we have told, like Brian said, we've told the public over and over that they were going to have input.
Oh, they definitely are.
Now, whether we do it as a warrant article, I think we do it as a work session, even if we have to make a work session between our regular meetings. But we need to get their input. They're screaming.
That's why we did this, that's what I'm looking at. So what I'm hearing is that we want to take our matrix and have a meeting with the public.
yeah.
That's, not a work session for us. We did it there, we're now ready to do one with the public, okay. So we
Because,
need a public,
In all the op-eds that were flying in the newspaper about the election, there was one little one in the middle again that somebody wrote that said, please let the citizens vote on the rebuild of the South Main Road.
and we're working on that. That's what this is all about. This is getting the data together. We'll need to have our boards with the intersections. And we're going to schedule it for an hour. Do you want to put it as an hour if it goes before a meeting, or we could do another night and have no...
I will bring pizza.
Well, let's
makes
just see,
people wonder.
let's see what
I
people
just
want to
think-
do.
I just think we're going to have a problem if we limit it.
Yeah.
So we should have a separate
We
meeting.
should have a
think so.
separate meeting.
Okay.
Problem, what did you say?
We'd have
With no-
problems if we had an hour, we'd limit.
Yeah,
He
I
couldn't
don't-
hear.
I don't think we should have a limit.
Okay, so
It's
then
going
we're
to go more
talking,
than an hour, I'll guarantee
All
you.
right.
Yes, I agree with that.
okay, so,
Because we're going to have some other ideas besides what we have.
oh, I am sure there will be.
Things that should be malleable. We can tell the state to do whatever we want.
That's what this whole thing's all about, is to get our direction, how we want it looking. That's what sent us down this road.
Yeah.
Was that we may not want everything the state was proposing.
Yeah.
Now,
Right?
if I,
Yep.
so somebody tossed out an idea that said, could we take these 4 things and whittle them down to 2? And does that fly in the face of this let the public decide? I don't know.
I think
I think going to the box and then trying to pick, 1 of 4 could get a little weird.
I think we're at 4. We need a meeting with the public. From that, we might
Whittle it
go
down to
down,
2, yeah.
but I wouldn't,
You okay with that?
I wouldn't whittle down beforehand.
No, I wouldn't whittle it down beforehand. I'd let everybody speak their mind, and then we kind of whittle it down to 2 and say, oh, there you go, A or B.
Yep.
You okay with that?
The other day, I wrote something on the top of this. Work session, BoS, and DOT. I'd like a representative from the DOT at our work session because I have questions that I would like to ask them.
Well, I don't think that's unreasonable. I'm sure they'll send somebody.
Okay.
Or not?
Why wouldn't they?
All right.
Well, they
Their
sure are
problem.
interested in, and
It's their project, not ours.
It's their project that's going to be the way we want it.
Well,
Not us personally, the citizens of
Yeah,
Wolfeboro.
Yeah. No, if you
I
have,
think
like-
that's what this whole thing's all
If
about.
you have like
designing.
data-driven questions, like how would this work, that would be good. If it's a redesign, and I'm not here to do the agenda, if it's could we redesign the outline, I think that probably would get goofy. But I agree, if you could have somebody there, that would be fun.
Okay, so we got
I
to,
also think beforehand that the state ought to tell us, or tell us, and then through one of our meetings, this roundabout is not unusual. I think the one in Plymouth is exactly like the one that they're going to put up here. So if people know where some of these are,
Right.
and in their travels, they can go look at them, I think we get a different perspective. It's the same with some of us. I mean, I know where a lot of these are because we do a lot of driving.
Sure.
But the one in Plymouth that comes to mind right away is that's the size and the shape of what they want to put up here.
Is the Plymouth Road a little wider?
No.
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 It's right in the middle of
Actually,
Plymouth.
it's, having driven there a
Right
few
downtown.
times, it's
I'll
it's
take
kind
you
of
down there. I
strange
haven't done that one.
Because the roundabout is actually
That one you can
starting
drive
up-
right across it.
How many
Okay.
roads?
There's nothing in the middle.
Okay, I'll have
We
to,
have
I'll have to
three.
take a drive up there.
We have 3.
Okay. All right, so now the next thing is we need to find a date. I would like to try to do it next week, if we could. And I'd like to, and if you're okay, Jim, if we could do it a night that you're not here.
I'm not going to be here any night next week.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm looking at
I'm
you
fine with
and
that.
saying, are you comfortable with us doing it without you here? Because
So maybe the first step is Jim contacts the DOT and sees what night they can make it.
I think we set a date, and somebody from DOT will make it, would be my feeling.
Yeah.
I think, or they'll watch it, they watch some of it on
Kelly?
if we get going too late, we're going to do our warrant articles on November 20th. You start getting into December. We need to get this going.
Oh, here comes, Steve's going to save the day.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
What, so, in talking with DOT, it's not just, I would like to just point out, it's not just DOT that comes. It's their full entourage of Stantec engineers that need to come with them. So to ask them to try to make that happen in less than a week might be difficult. I'm more than happy to reach out and I can try to do that. The other thing, I would be curious as to what it is you're looking for from them.
Yeah, that's what I.
That, because we have had a lot of these. So I don't know what new information they can, I have presented the questions to Jason, and he's working on those.
Okay.
Jason, Dave, and Jerry, the ones that we talked
Yep,
about
yep.
a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
So they
Came out
are
of a-
working on those to get those answers. And so I'm kind of curious, because that's one of the questions they're going to ask me is, what is it that they're going to be looking at? Or what is it that you will be looking for from them? Because, we've had the plans, we have the stuff. What input, I guess, because I'll be honest, from my side, I'm a little confused on what it is that you would need from them.
See, I thought we were going to do was we were going to get a reaction to the things that we have, what we worked on to get the matrix from the public. And then if we have, and you get the answers to the 3 questions that the board had, and we're saying, as you're saying, Brian, we're going to do it our way. We're trying to define our way, and then maybe once we get our way, then it's to bring them in and have that kind of a conversation.
Because from DOT's perspective, and not to speak for them, but I've had enough dialogue with them to understand where they're coming from. They are designing this thing full bore. That was
Correct.
what the last time they were here, that was what was authorized. You see them out there, they're
Yep.
surveying it. They are doing this full bore. What they are looking for is from us, what it is that we want. It's not them telling it, it's what is it that, what do you want? And then we'll put it on the paper. It's this page, it's this page, it's this page. What is it that you want? So I don't know,
Well, then maybe we could do it this way. This document that we have, can you forward it to them and ask them if we're way off on this? If they look at it and they go, what the hell are they talking about?
but sure, I guess I still don't.
Because I would have questions with them, and I'd say, hey, so as a board, we were talking about minimum build, and we thought this and this and this. Are we on the right track, or are we not?
I can, Brian, but again, I go back to, Is it, how many, you want me to ask them how many parking spaces we're going to lose? I mean, that's there. So I guess, I would be more than happy to do whatever it is you guys want. I need clarification on what it is.
Yeah, just to Steve's point here too, I think at this time, for this meeting coming up, I think it's premature to get DOT here. As Steve explained, getting their whole entourage together I think it'd be next to impossible anyway. I think we need to, as he said too, we've asked them to design it to the full scale or full-blown scale there, because we were told and we all agreed that we could take things out from the design, but we can't add things back, add in later on down the process, so, which is the reason we did that. So I think the thing we should do is have our meeting, have our work session with the public, and as we talked about, maybe limit these things down to 2, and try and get some of the answers back to the questions that we got down there. I'm assuming one of those questions is what Barry's question there on the trees there. If we go with the 1-lane
Yes.
traffic there, it's going to save a lot on the tree issue and all that stuff. So
I believe
that's
we had the Hammerhead part of Pleasant Valley Road, stay like it is or come out to a T. We had 1 lane. Can we go down to 1 lane alternating for the whole thing? And if so, will that cut down the pole moving and then reduce the overall construction footprint of that corridor?
Right.
Going forward?
So I think we need to have our meeting with the public stuff, narrow this down, our list down on what we're looking for, and then sit down with DOT again at that time and say, how we're going to move, how can we move forward with this now?
Right. I think, so from the construction side of this, that makes a lot of sense, because if you take your 4 and you narrow it to 2, then you go to DOT and you're like, okay, these are our 2 options. These are what we're looking at. It's this and whatever. These are what we're going to go forward, whether it be warrant or however it is that you guys choose to do that. This is where we're at, and we'll have an answer for you by this date.
Right.
That's what they're looking for. They want to be able to hit the ground running when the time comes. They just need that answer.
Yep.
I guess that's where I am. Dave, are you okay with us not having DOT?
Yeah, that's fine.
Are you okay? All right, so now we got to figure out a date. And one of the things Brian and I are lucky to do, we're starting our budget hearings that week. So our number of weeks, that's why I was trying to get it in front of a regular Board of Selectmen's meeting, but I agree, we don't want to do it. On the week of the 12th through the 15th, we have one on Tuesday and we have one on Thursday. We do not have one on Wednesday.
I am okay with doing a morning meeting, a noon meeting, anytime during the day. I will carve out an hour or 2 hours from my full-time job to be at a meeting. I don't have to do it at dinner time.
But my feeling is this is to the public, and there's a lot of public that work, and this needs to be an evening meeting to accommodate them. And I agree, if it was just the 4 of us, we could do that. But I think we really want the public. So
I thought you had decided it was going to be a work session.
no, you want public. I said, do you want a public hearing? I thought I heard was I wrong?
No,
I thought you swapped it to a work session.
no.
No.
So we felt with the public, we would be able to do it in an hour before a meeting. That's why we picked a separate day for it, so.
Well, the other thing, we could start it at 5:30 instead of 6:30.
Yes, we could do something like that. The question is, and are we ready to go on that Wednesday? I'm just afraid of getting it too late. When we get to the following one, from what I have, we've got a huge number of things that's going to be on our agenda for the 20th. And that's starting of writing warrant articles. And then you get into the following week, that's Thanksgiving. So,
13th.
Yes, so to move it along, I'll make a motion that we meet on the 13th at 6:30 for
okay.
work session / public
When-
input for the Route 28 corridor.
Wednesday, the 13th, at what time?
6:30.
6:30?
6?
He says 6:30. That's his
6:30,
motion.
That's my motion.
Okay? Okay, so we got Brad who made the motion, Paul who seconded it. Any further discussion?
6, if possible.
Okay. Brian would like to change it to 6.
Make an amendment to the motion then.
All right, so I'll make an amendment to the motion that we meet at 6 instead of 6:30.
Is there a second? Hearing none. We have a motion to do it on Wednesday, November 13th at 6:30. It's going to be on the Route 28. It's going to be a public meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All righty, we're moving on.
I have confirmed the hall is available.
It is available? Okay. I will get a hold of Amy and
Which one?
this one. All righty,
We'll
Jim?
have handouts and stuff for that.
Yeah, we'll get the boards out, and yes, yes, definitely. And I'll make sure there's a packet out beforehand, and if there's material that's missing, let me know. We'll put some other, I'll add whatever anybody else wants, all right?
And we want to make sure Mark is here that night. Who? Mark.
Okay,
You.
we're moving on.
Let's move on.
2025 budget. Jim, that's yours.
Yep. So apparently we're running into some technical difficulties, so I'll try to go over this quickly based on what the Board of Selectmen has done. So we've been through the budgetary process. As we've gone through the budgetary process, the department heads submitted their budgets. I reviewed the budgets with the department heads. I essentially rolled the department heads' budgets over. As we rolled the department heads' budgets forward, the Board of Selectmen began to review the budgets on their own. Currently, the overall budget for the town of Wolfeboro proposed for 2025 is $36,372,472. Of that, 58% is for the general fund. That 58% is what makes up your tax bill. If you recall, we have 4 enterprise funds that are supposed to be paying for themselves. So $20,758,845 is what will impact the tax rate. That is minus capital outlay. The electric fund is $11,202,226, making up 31% of the budget. The water fund is $1,803,881, or 5% of the budget. The sewer fund, $1,837,591, or 5% of the budget. And Pop Whalen is $441,978, or 1% of the budget. The overall increase in the budget with everything in, as compared to the default budget, is an increase of $3,071,672, which equates to 9.2%. Of a lot of our drivers in this budget, we have an ambulance contract which is coming on board in the neighborhood of $500,000. We have additional staffing within the fire department at $100,000. And I apologize that this is not coming up because this lays it out, but I will make it available on the webpage. So with that said, you, the Board of Selectmen, have gone through this budget, and you guys have made your cuts. And I am recommending that you move forward the 2025 operating budget to the Budget Committee in the amount of $36,372,472.
What was that figure again, Jim?
$36,372,472.
Yep, okay, got it. Yep, all
$472.
right. Board members, do you have any questions for Jim? All righty, I need a motion to move, to accept this as our budget and move it to the Budget Committee? Is that what you're looking for, Jim?
Please.
So move.
Second.
Okay. Dave, Brian, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All righty.
Just as a tidbit of information, we haven't gotten to the point of being able to calculate it yet because we were working on tax rate today. We did get word health insurance is a 7% increase, so we'll see a slight reduction there. It's not the 10% placeholder.
Okay, we have approval of a sale of tax map, and there was nothing in the Board of Selectmen's packet. Do you have something on that? I have no idea. This was the lot, we've had 2 public hearings.
Correct.
And this is the lot that was not by tax deed, and so we need to vote on this tonight, is that right?
What happened on this one is when we began doing the deed research, it was determined that this property was not taken by tax sale. This property was actually purchased by the town of Wolfeboro in the 1930s. It was, I believe, purchased for $10 and then $5 a day for life for the individual who sold it to the town. It's a 6-acre partial. It's at the corner of Pine Hill Road and Wickers Drive. It is a piece of property that we did look at for the public safety building, but because of the wet soils and the proximity to propane, it was not utilized for that. And we did move forward with it, assuming that it was a tax deeded property based on the information we had. It was determined once we got into the deeps of the deed research that it was not. It was purchased for $60,000.
Board members, does anybody have any questions?
Well, the only question is that the one that abuts the SAU district building?
I believe that is correct.
And it's going to be used for additional propane storage?
No.
No.
I don't know what it's going to be used for. That's why we did not put the public safety building there, because of propane storage.
It is not next to the SAU building. It is, isn't it?
To the corner of Wickers Drive.
Okay.
I think it is adjacent.
Yeah, I think it's big enough property, yeah.
It's adjacent. Okay,
6 acres.
all right.
Okay. What's it zoned for? Does anybody know?
Pine Hill District. I can't recall what they are right off the top of my head.
My only concern was because there's already propane tanks stored in that vicinity, if there was going to be more, and we have a fleet of buses there, and the SAU building, as long as we make sure that anything that's developed there is something that is not going to cause a safety hazard, because when we have a whole bunch of buses there.
Well, so
And yes?
so that's a planning board question.
It is, absolutely.
So we just have to be, aware that we can't just not that you're doing this, we can't just say, we've decided to change the zone. That's a planning board question. I believe that it's zone commercial. Inside of that commercial zone, there are permitted uses. And I think we have a contemporaneous situation where there may be a non-permitted use going on in there. So if that were to happen, that would have to be either back to the planning board or go to the ZBA.
Is there any other questions? Does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve the sale of tax map 161, lot 11 to David Hughes for $60,000.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Dave.
Second.
I have a second by Brad.
Oops, sorry.
Any further discussion?
Oops, sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
Abstain.
one abstention. Okay, next item on the agenda, and I'm sure people are waiting, is the Libby trustees meeting. And I'd like a motion to go into the Libby trustees meeting.
So move.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Brad, seconded by Paul. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, first item, the Turner report, and I guess that goes to you, Jim.
Yeah, so I'm going to hand this over to Steve Randall. He actually received the H.L. Turner report today.
Oh, my.
So there's no secret, we did receive some information from H.L. Turner based on some of their probing that we should empty the building and we should not have anybody in the building. But Steve can speak to what he knows from the report now, and we'll get it off to you here in the next couple of days.
So it got emailed to me a few minutes actually before I came here, so I opened it, perused through it pretty quickly. The biggest things in there, which was empty the building and listing off, back wall, and they have it's pretty good detail of, needs to happen, what has to happen, what needs to happen. It is pretty decent from what I could see, but I don't have it with me, and I don't have a good enough to speak.
So it was good. It was a good forensic building
100%.
investigation.
They had 8 engineers out there.
So this is what we've needed for years.
They did it. I was out there the day they did it. They had 8 engineers. They crawled all over it, under it, and through it, and they did a very good job.
And this is not stuff that's happened in the last 5 or 6 years. This is something that's
No, it's a long.
yeah.
And that's why they wanted to do, that's what the Warren article was for, was to upgrade it.
Yes.
This is not something we didn't understand, that there needed work. Once that went down, that plan didn't work, and then we're backing up.
It is a draft. I'm going to read through it tomorrow.
Okay.
Reach out to them if I have anything, but I will get that shipped over to you folks
Okay.
in the morning.
Is there anything else on the Turner report other than us realizing we've got to do something now with the building?
What I could gather from what I saw was it gives us what we need to do in order for the building. It gives us their recommendations on what to do, all the way from rebuilding to HVAC to insulation to, it's a pretty good.
Okay. And is there a price with that, or it just,
No.
this is what we'd have to go out and get any?
This is what we need to do
Okay.
for it.
Linda?
Yeah.
So, just again, for the benefit of the public, we've had 2 visits from Turner.
Correct.
We've had, in visit number 1, we had a couple of Turner engineers just walk the building, rip off the battens, or several battens in the back. And then the second visit was eight people who showed up?
No. So the first visit was air quality inside.
It was air quality, okay.
That was the first one with the 2 of them, fully air quality inside.
The
The second visit was when we removed
The battens.
Yeah, we cut a hole in the floor. We got the lifts, put them up in the.
They got up in the ceiling.
They got up in the ceiling. They went down underneath, went through the floors, through the stuff. We pulled the battens off the back so they could see the wall.
And they sent you a commentary after that meeting?
Yes.
What was the commentary?
The commentary is what's followed up in the report, which was get the,
It's
you
a
know,
report.
we need to empty it, which is what we
You
did.
need to get it, it was commentary that the back of the building was structurally
In bad shape.
in bad shape.
Yeah.
And could be affected
dangerous.
by
Yes.
snow loads. Okay. Not to alarm people, but the commentary was not very positive that the back of the building. Okay. So this new report, or this report, is going to further describe that.
Yes. Again, I'm going to preface this by saying I
No, I
have not
understand.
read through the full
You
thing.
just got it.
But yes.
You just got it.
What I perused through it was yes.
Okay, got it.
Okay. We all set with that? Okay, we have here with us tonight the Heritage Commission, and they have a suggestion for us.
Hi.
Hi.
You have a lot on your plate, and the Libby Museum is at the end of this list, and I'm sorry. I'm representing the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance tonight, the statewide nonprofit dedicated to helping people preserve historic places through education, advocacy, grant making, and direct assistance. My name is Maggie Steer, by the way. As you may know, the Preservation Alliance named the Libby Museum to its 2024 Seven to Save list last month. A 4-minute video about the museum and why it was listed is on our website, nhpreservation.org, under the Seven to Save tab. I actually launched the Seven to Save program in 2006, so it's almost 20 years old. It was modeled after national and other state examples that call attention to threatened historic places, thereby boosting the process of attracting new interest and finding creative solutions, municipal, nonprofit, business, to save and revive them. The Pickering House and the Town Hall were both previous Seven to Saves with wonderful outcomes. The Libby was added to this list for its architectural significance as an example of early 20th century interest in natural history, cultural philanthropy, and the dire need to address structural issues caused by its unique design that allowed excess moisture into the walls of the building. Seven to Save means that the Alliance works with project partners to achieve a preservation solution. We consider about 50% of the 150 properties we've listed so far as saved. Many are still in progress or not yet resolved, and a few have been lost. We all know the voters have rejected one proposal. We would like to help you, as we do with all of our Seven to Saves, with an offer to start with a clean slate and collaboratively examine where we are, where we'd like to be, and how we get there. Because the building is on the National Register and has this Seven to Save listing now, we see that it positions the museum very favorably for grant funding, and also for attracting advisors that you may not have already considered to look at operating structure and even eventual ownership models. The Heritage Commission, of which I'm also a member, has discussed how we might also partner with the Preservation Alliance, but we want to help with the pre-development phase for this capital project. The Alliance has extensive experience helping nonprofits and municipalities with reviving, reusing, reorganizing, and reinvesting in libraries, town halls, museums, and historical societies, and the tools and strategies to help move along that path from plans and ideas to successful outcomes. Our services come at no charge. We hope that you will agree to include us in an advisory team that can assist all of you in reviewing the existing reports exploring and envisioning new opportunities, and come to a plan for the Libby's future that's within our means, benefits the community, and can be implemented expeditiously, perhaps in phases. The building is worth saving.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
By way of introduction, I'm Dave Bolduc. I'm the chair of the Heritage Commission. I've been a member of the commission since 2020, and our commission has competent members with various skill sets that include marketing, fundraising, and construction management. I'm here tonight to offer the Heritage Commission's help in partnering with the Libby trustees in exploring and developing a way forward for the Libby Museum. And the museum has significant physical and organizational issues. Structurally, the building has reached a critical point where a plan needs to be implemented to address its failing physical condition, and beyond that, develop a strategy for a sustainable future. One of the duties of the Heritage Commission, as laid out in the RSA, is to advise the town board upon request on matters that affect Wolfeboro's heritage or cultural resources. Libby is one of our earliest museums. Its value has been recognized by its listing on the National Register of Historic Places. If invited by the Libby trustees, the commission could assist in seeking input from town people in ascertaining their views on the museum's value, helping with fundraising if a decision is made to initiate a capital campaign, helping with developing a working plan for renovating the Libby, reviewing past and recent evaluations that have been completed on the museum, or any other aid requested from the Libby trustees. The Heritage Commission stands ready to help the trustees tackle the challenges facing the Libby Museum. Please consider our offer to partner with you. David Bolduc.
Thank you. All right, board members, what we have in front of us is a offer to have a committee, the Heritage Committee, move this project forward in looking at it from all different phases. And I don't know what the board would like to do. I know we're going to get the Turner report. That's going to be, the condition of the building. I kind of see this similar to what we did with the ad hoc ambulance committee. We sent it out, we had a group work on it, and then come back to us with a lot of the groundwork done and with recommendations on how we move forward. So, does anybody have any comments? Dave.
Well, I think a couple things here. One is we haven't seen the report from Turner yet, so we don't know what's really going on. I certainly think that we should take advantage of what Mr. Bolduc has said to us tonight about the commission. Certainly we know Maggie has the best interests of the town from her point of view. But I think the first thing we need to do is find out what do we got to do to it. I mean, we know it's bad, but how bad? We haven't seen that report yet. We've seen some other reports over the last few years from different consultants that say the building's not great. Now I think it's going to tell us just how bad it is. So I don't have any issues with having them help us at some point. Right now, I haven't seen the report, so I don't know how bad it is to move forward. I certainly think it's a great opportunity for some other townspeople to get involved in this particular project. I think that's a plus, but I want to see that report.
All righty. Brian.
I would like to see the report also. I'd like to see the report put on our town website too. So that anybody who wants to view it, I'd like to see a copy of the report delivered to the Heritage Commission also, so that they can see it. And I also think that we need to do an assessment of storage options as we're going to discuss.
That's the next item on the item. This is what we're at now. We're going to talk with this, decide what we want to do, and then we've got a larger discussion on storage, okay?
So,
Do you,
yeah, because I think that the whole community needs to see what we have there, what we have for a challenge going forward.
does anybody else have any other comments? Yep.
I think the challenge comes in a couple of parts, and one is the condition of the building, but the other is the constraints of the Libby Trust and the deed that passed the responsibility for the site to the town. After the last town vote, I heard a lot of people talking about how valuable that parcel of land was and why not just tear it down and the town could use it for other things. And that the trust really does restrict that. So I think before we start any sort of public process, we need to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row and that people understand the constraints that we're working under and perhaps some of the assumptions that may or may not pertain to this situation. So I'm a little cautious about, at this point, just sort of saying, here's the condition of the building is really bad. What do you think we ought to do? Because I think it's much more nuanced and complicated than that.
Okay.
Not that I don't want to see the report and not that I don't think it ought to be online, but I think a lot of planning and conversation needs to take place as to what's this going to cost and what's the public benefit and is the current operating model something we want to continue with? I mean, those are sort of the big questions that need to be answered before you start saying, well, we really need to rebuild that back wall. Now, having said that, that back wall is in terrible shape, and something needs to be done fairly soon, which is why I would suggest, after we have a chance to look at the Turner report, thinking about a phased stabilization phase, doing that emergency stabilization right away, and then taking a little bit more time to look at what are the options for that building. Does it have to be exactly what it was as Dr. Libby envisioned it, or can we broaden the scope of what it's doing and how it's serving the community? I think those are all questions that need to be asked, as well as the operating structure, because you all, as the selectmen, may not want to continue to be trustees and responsible for operating a museum. And so I think those are the big questions. That's certainly what the Preservation Alliance posed in its assessment of 7 to Save.
And I think that are very good comments. We've struggled with that. We've explored different ways to manage that, but it will be a public report once it comes to us out here in the public. And I don't see any problem putting it on the website. I'd prefer to be transparent. I don't feel like we need to go out and say, what do you want us to do? That point, but I don't want to not say, we got our work cut out for us here because of this report, and we're going to partner, we're going to look at it in as many dimensions as we want to. So I'm with you, Brian. I think it does need to go on the town, but I don't think we need to ask and say, okay, here it is. I think it's a piece of knowledge.
Yeah, it might garner public support when people actually see that it needs help. We don't know where it's going to land, but the public has a right to see what one of our town assets is in its condition. And
so I think you need to decide then what your plan is going to be in terms of public engagement, because I think this is a really critical point. And at the very least, maybe I would ask you to also post on your website the Dr. Libby's will, which specifies how the museum is to be used. Yes? No?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. No problem with that.
Okay.
We can, any other documents that we have, that we should put them all, we should put a Libby Museum and we can put the will,
The trust.
that the will is the trust.
I thought there was two documents, the wills.
No, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. And then also, we could put, there is a vote of the town. We should do some of that history. I think I have it all here in this book, and get that all in a packet, so that all the information. And we probably should put up here the letter from the Heritage Commission offering their support. So
I was thinking the deed, too.
Once you accept it. And maybe a link to the 7 to Save video.
Okay.
That might be helpful, too.
I hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
All righty.
I was thinking the deed, too.
There is, the will is where the deed, it's a fiduciary deed.
Okay.
Okay.
I've seen
All right,
the
is there any other comments? All righty.
Could I make some?
Yeah?
Thanks for doing this, Maggie and Mr. Baldock. Appreciate that. I agree that this report is a start. There's a lot of documents, and I also agree that we should populate our website, just as we've done with the public safety building, we did with the docks. Just put it out there so people can look at it. I think that's right. The more they know, the better informed they are. This is a museum, and it has to be treated that way. So whatever we do, we have to do it by the book. We have to behave as this was a museum. And it has to be treated respectfully. That doesn't mean we have to study it to death. We just have to treat it respectfully. So this report is going to inform us, all of us, as to what the next steps are. And I'm not going to disclose because it's not worth the conversation. But I see 3 possible outcomes, and all outcomes are going to have to get handled through the State Attorney General's office. Period. Because it involves the will and the trust and all of that. And there's also been inquiries to the Attorney General's office as to what needs to get done and what hasn't been done and what should have been done. And so we are now in the spotlight, legitimately so, of the Attorney General's office. So whatever we decide to do or recommend to the public, the AG's office gets a vote. They get a big vote. So I don't disagree with you, Maggie, but I don't think we're going to jump to the, let's go get some 2x6s and throw those things up on the back of the building and call it a day. I don't think we're going to go there. I think we need to systematically take the question apart as to what we think we should do. And at some point, we're going to have to start plowing the ground on which one of those options, and I think there's 3 that we should pursue, and then sign people up to help us pursue those options. And if we can't get those done, then we can't get them done. So I just think method is important here, and so is time. So a good method in a good time frame to get this thing going or to get some resolution is important. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. And I thank you for the volunteering of maybe stepping up and helping us find resources, start a capital campaign. I think those are like Christmas tree ornaments that we can pick at some point in the future and say we're going to go after this or not. Okay? Thank you, Linda, for letting me speak.
The trust division has said that we can use the museum for like purposes, maybe environmental studies, and keep the artifacts in it also, so it can have multi-purposes. They've also said that we could find another group to run the museum if they had the knowledge and the financial capability to run the museum. So so we have options. it's just a matter of making it work.
And I think what we've been trying to say tonight is you don't have to do this whole process on your own.
Yes.
The Alliance has immeasurable resources for you guys
Yep.
to work with, and we have some manpower and some expertise that we could help you with, and just keep that in mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, we will reach out to you, I'm sure.
And I guess that's what I'm saying here. Yes, we have to look at the report, but we don't want this thing to just take forever.
Right.
And so, my feeling is I think we should get the Heritage Commission and New Hampshire Preservation on board to get some kind of committee working as we take a look at the building, and we start, so if it's kind of a two-prong approach, it makes sense. I mean, to me, it's kind of like what we did with that ambulance, for us all to have gone through all that all the time. We got people to help us do the work that needed to be done, and it's going to come back to us as recommendations. So I would like us tonight, and I'll make a motion, that we invite the Heritage Commission and New Hampshire Preservation Alliance to help us work on this project.
Second.
Okay. All right. I made the motion. Paul seconded to invite them on. Any further discussion?
If I could.
Yes, you can. I'm asking for it.
The possible outcomes that I think about involve a doctrine called cypre. And the doctrine of cypre says that you always have to honor donor intent. However, if it's impossible to honor the donor's original intent, the court steps in, the court in the proxy of the Attorney General's office gets to say, to what Brian was offering, maybe you could repurpose it. But that's like down the street a half a mile and 2 blocks to the right. We got to figure out where we want to start. And Linda's exactly right too, and I support her thing. We got to get at it with some vigor. Mindful that we could have some options in front of us. That's all. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. All righty.
Do we have to recommend this to the Board of Selectmen?
We did, yes. Yes, we. Yeah, I guess we.
Recommend this to ourselves.
All right, we will. We've got that motion.
Yep.
I think we can do it inside here. This is not spending money. This is inside the Libby. We as trustees are inviting them to work with us as trustees of the Libby, not as the Board of Selectmen, but as trustees of the Libby. So I think we're fine where we are. Now we go. Thank you very much. We appreciate the help, and I'll get in contact with you, and we'll get this thing started. Okay? And now for storage. Jim, do we have any more information on storage?
No, we do not. The last I knew, Brian was going to be taking some measurements and getting some information about potentially doing something in this building. So I guess that's kind of what I'm waiting for, to hear if we've got anything from that point.
Yeah.
And I've got the Kincaid report and just need to contact them.
So I read these last time. I did basement measurements. We have a total of 2,281 square feet in the basement. We have 1,268 square feet not used. That's only about half of what we need to store the artifacts. Someone else in town suggested to me the MED building. Both would need renovation in order to have them have the proper temperature and humidity to store artifacts, but they would become usable assets for us when the Libby is done and those artifacts are returned to the Libby Museum. So instead of spending money for storage, we would be creating assets. Plus, the basement of this town hall could use some attention, so we end up getting a good bonus from it. Now, a way to maybe look at this and say, can we cut our storage costs down, would be to have a expert in museum Yes, that's what I was doing, collections management or appraisal. I was going to say appraisal, but it's not appraisal, collections management. Look at these, thank you, Maggie, and determine what has historical significance, what has historical value, what has sentimental value to citizens in the town, what has financial value, and put a number on what the collection is actually worth to start with. There may be ways that we can determine then what gets stored, how, where, when, and why.
Yep.
So I'm at a deficit of knowledge here, but my understanding is that we know, because we have an inventory of what exactly Dr. Libby contributed to that building. Is that correct? We know that. And if we do, we need to make sure we bring that document to light. And now to Mr. Duchesne's point, we need to, I think, this would be the way I'd approach it, I may be wrong, we take the document and we say, those are Dr. Libby's assets that are governed by the trust, governed by the people we have to report to. And we have this other stuff. And I say stuff, please don't get upset. We have these other items. And we need to potentially understand the value of those two things. And so this assessment of the collection is probably worth having a conversation about. I'll give you a point of fact is, a couple of weeks ago, Brian mentioned that, maybe there's some materials or maybe there's some items in there that may have no value. They may be valueless, either because they're beyond the pale, they're just ruined, or they're just not worth praising. And so I asked Jim, and Jim kindly showed me that we are insuring that building, the interior contents of the building, for $400,000. We are not valuing the collection. It's Primex is saying the outside of the building is worth X, the inside of the building is worth $400,000. So we could, I guess, we could say, $400,000 is about what the collection's worth. That's going to draw some fire from people and say, wait a minute, it's worth more. So I'm kind of leaning towards we might want to do a formal update the inventory and then have an assessment. Wright Museum did it with our collection when I was over there. Have an assessment or have some kind of an assessment of what it's worth. And we probably would need to get a price as to how to do that. That's kind of where I come up.
Linda, there's also one piece that I found out when I was looking at the history of the museum is the process for him mounting his collection on, for lack of a better word, a plaster of Paris. It's not a plaster, but he used the same kind of technique that he used in dentistry. And it was revolutionary at the time. It was actually copied by the Harvard Museum of Natural History, which at one time was the same size as the Libby Museum. So the process itself, and that it was developed here in Wolfeboro, has huge historical value. So that's something, but that is going to be hard to quantify in dollars and cents.
Well,
so,
and does that inventory say whether it came as Dr. Libby or where the items came from? Like there's a moose. Now, that didn't come from Dr. Libby, so that's sorting. And I don't know if the inventory, has anybody seen that inventory? I know it's there. Brad?
Yeah, I recall seeing it when the friends went out and got that all put together there and stuff. And I believe there is some captions with the inventory that talks about where it came from, who provided stuff like that, like the moose. We know the friends went out and raised money and had that done from up in Maine and stuff like that. But a lot of the older stuff too of Dr. Libby's, I believe there is a little brief description of the artifacts that are there. So it's very current. That's only a few years old, so it's pretty up to date.
And they gave it to the town?
Yes.
Okay, so we should probably get...
I believe there's a copy at the library.
Okay, that's good to know.
I can't recall if one was given here to the town hall or not, but I believe there is one at the library.
Well, we should get a copy of it should be here at the town hall. I don't know how large it is.
It's fairly large. I
Okay.
believe there's an electronic version of it, too.
Well, if we have electronic version, we should get that out, and we should have a copy made for here at the town hall, so that we have that. So in terms of storage, are we saying we've got the inventory, we need a collection manager? Is that?
Well, what I would...
I'm just going...
Yeah, if we want to start getting our Heritage Commission involved, I would ask maybe we could have them find a appraiser, for lack of a better word, to look at the collection and determine what the value of the collection is, and let us know what pieces need the most attention.
But we can't let them in the building. We're at storage, so we're here at storage, and we're over here at management. So I'm trying to figure out what we want to do with storage. Maggie.
You have a curator who works in season.
Yeah.
Is she still available to assist in this? I know she has a certificate in museum studies.
She does.
Which is wonderful. And if she were available, I think a lot of your discussion would benefit from her expertise. I also have 30 years in the museum field, and a lot of, I would suggest you look beyond Wolfeboro for storage solutions, because there may be other places that have storage that might be available.
We looked at and had
Lower
a quote
cost.
from something in Concord that was going to move box and store it for us when we were going to do the renovation. I was looking for that name today. So we have at least that one.
But this is something that our team would be happy to help you with.
Okay.
Especially if Lena could be available as well.
Okay.
She's willing to volunteer her time. That would be
Lena.
terrific.
Here's a moment of clarity that I need, okay?
Right.
Linda made a comment, and she's exactly right. I mean, there might be something in the report that says, be careful about going in the building. There might be something in that report. So you got that possible fact. Then you got something over here that says, we need to figure out what the inventory is, what belongs to the trust, and what doesn't belong to the trust, and then put a, hate to use the word, price tag on that.
Why?
Well, because you probably do want to know what the value of those assets are.
Why?
Why not?
Because...
You don't want to know what the value of the collection is?
No.
You don't?
No.
That would be an interesting conversation for later.
Are you going to sell it?
No.
Then
we want to
why do
insure
you
it.
need to know?
We want to insure it.
Okay, but I think if you have a catastrophic loss, you have no museum.
We want to insure it.
There are pros and cons about insuring collections, Paul, interestingly enough.
Send me whatever you got. I'd love to read it.
Okay.
So
And,
we have
and
this
if the building
debate that
falls
says-
down, you have no museum.
So we have this debate that says something's in Dr. Libby's collection and something's not.
It doesn't matter, because I think all of this is moot until you figure out what's going to happen to the museum. And I
So
think...
stuff should, and you're, just if I could push back a little bit, stuff should stay in there until we figure it out.
No, but
Oh.
you should not cull the collection in any
I'm
way.
confused.
You should
Okay.
just store it.
Yes, she's
Just
saying
Store
it
everything.
until you decide what's going to happen.
Store it all.
Yep. Store as much as you can. I know there are some
It
concerns,
says
but
store the whole thing.
Well, that's where I was coming back around to, guys, is this storage, and that's what we had talked about. My understanding with that quote that we got when we were going to renovate, there were a number of items that could not come out. And so...
Just a few, yeah.
Jim, what was that storage cost?
I can't remember, but the individual was museum and collector resources, Valerie Kincaid. She provided us a quote. I can't remember what it is.
it was
I believe
under
I forwarded-
10,000, wasn't it?
No, it was 130.
No, it was.
I wouldn't say
very
100,
expensive.
I would say 160.
There was something up there.
Yeah.
It was moving.
Oh, you're right. But
It was moving it and storing it for 2 years.
It was moving it
Correct.
and storing it for 2 years,
Yep.
but it didn't include taking out a lot of the large items because they said that they couldn't be moved. They would be trying to do the construction around it But that was before they knew what was going to be entailed in construction. And now we're getting a better picture of what's going to be entailed in
Well,
construction.
that was a total renovation.
It's sort of a chicken and egg situation, and a lot of those cabinets are really just as valuable as the exhibits because they are part of the concept of the building. I would say get your small committee to work on these things.
Okay.
Rather than all of you trying to work with not enough data and professional expertise.
That's where you can help us.
Yeah, I will sit and talk to Maggie and Dave and get a small committee put our minds together, if that's in agreement with the board.
How about this? When's your next meeting?
A week from today at 5 o'clock.
Come to our meeting, because I'll be there.
Well, you're having a public hearing. Is that at 6:30, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
A week from today.
Let me just talk to them and let's see what
We're
we...
at 6:30, our meeting's at 5:30.
5.
5. So you
That's
can-
up to you.
Okay, we'll work on it. I'll get back to you. We're going to move forward. You'll help us with this. We'll have some conversation, do a list. Before even we talk to the commission at the meeting, we should do some work to get that together beforehand.
Okay.
Okay?
I would
Does that make-
appreciate if you just came to our meeting that in a week at 5 o'clock and we discussed it
Okay, I hear
together as a
you,
group.
but I'd like to talk to them and get some of it and get it outlined what they're presenting and what we want as the board based on this. Than to just go there and say, oh,
I think it would be better done at a
well,
public
you
meeting.
and I can, I will go to the public meeting with what I have. You can add public input. Yep. We're not in public input. Oh, later? Yes. All right. Yeah, we just need to get going here. Are we done? We need to get some, we're going to work with them and get some of the storage. Am I correct?
Yep.
And, all right?
Do you want me to have Kincaid update her quote? or
What?
not? Do you want me to have Mrs. Kincaid update her quote from 2 years ago or not?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll have that in, something we're looking at.
Would there be any cost to that, you think, Jim?
I don't know. I'll ask.
And if there is a cost, then we won't. Okay? Agreed? All right.
Got a motion to come out?
Yes, what I'm waiting for,
So
Brett.
moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All righty. Other business, Jim, finally.
Yeah, tax rate, so Casey's here to speak to the tax rate, and I'm going to hand you off a memo relative to it.
I thought Casey just stayed here because she'd like to be with us at night.
Don't be honest. So this got finalized today.
Catherine Carpentier, Assistant Town Finance Director. Don't even know my title. Assistant Town Manager. Last week I reached out to DRA asking when the tax rate would be set. They weren't sure, gave me no timeline, and because they were waiting for DOE to finalize the numbers for the school side. This morning at 9:30 they called us and said we had a 10:30 meeting to go over revenues and set the tax rate. So I spent the day in contact with them, reviewing the numbers. So my apologies for not getting this on the agenda as a real item, but we're kind of looking to get the bills out as soon as possible. And if I had to wait till the 20th, it would be 2 weeks out from now. So I'll be more than happy to discuss this again on the 20th. So anybody who didn't see this or catch it, if that's what you so choose. So on 10/2, the Board of Selectmen meeting, you reviewed the MS1, which is the valuation, and the MS434, which is the revenues. Back in March, the appropriations were approved. So there's really no decisions that needed to be made at this point from the town side. We were waiting for the county rate and the school rates to come in. So where we're at right now is the preliminary tax rate. We've got a little bit more in state revenues, $19,685, and a small increase in other revenues, $18,962, a little over $38,000 extra revenues. Nothing too impressive there. But the current tax rate is $15.90. The municipal part went up 71 cents. Local education went up 33 cents. State education went up 12 cents. The county went up 6, which is a total increase of $1.21. And I think that's it. On the second page, I give you a comparison from 23 to 24. Looks like a lot of numbers, but it's just showing you the changes that have happened and where the changes are driven. The town puts out the tax bill, but it is made out of 4 different components: municipal, education, state education, and the county. And then the last 4 pages, if you'll see on the top right, it does say preliminary tax rate. That is the tax rate. And then on the last page of that, it does have the unassigned fund balance of $3,006,943, which is a 6.82% increase, which we talked about when I was here in October. So I'm here to entertain any questions you may have or to offer a motion.
Board members, does anybody have any questions? Well, getting it all now and digesting it all and having a question for you at 9:30 at night after last night.
So, I mean, you have options. I mean,
Yes, I am. I don't have it right now.
I can bring it back on the 20th, but...
No, I think we need to take the vote. It is what it is.
That is correct. I mean,
we
again,
may have...
My apologies, but it was good timing that it showed up today. You were meeting tonight. So the way this works is if you approve it tonight, I tell DRA it's a go, and it can take anywhere from 2 days to a week is what they said before we get the final director to sign off on it, so already we lose a week. Then we've got to create the bills, send them out to be mailed, and then we have to give 30 days for the taxpayers to pay. So it's going to be way down in December anyways at this point, which is normal, but we just don't want it to go into next year.
I think the other thing that's important for everybody to know is when we built the budget last year and we went to the deliberative session, we estimated the town tax rate to be $7.30. We had a default budget. We had a couple warrant articles that did not pass, and as a result, we have a tax rate on the town end of $6.73. So we've come in well under what we projected when we went to the deliberative session last year.
Board members, anybody have any questions?
The formula is not going to change, so I think they're exactly right. When is Brenda sending out the bills? When does she normally do that?
Well, we have to wait for the director to sign off on it.
Customarily, second week of December?
But no, she'll send it November.
Hopefully it happens in the next couple, like a week or two,
Time is of the essence on this.
And then the due date would be somewhere in the middle of December.
Yeah.
So if there are no questions, I offer a motion to approve the preliminary tax rate for 2024 in the amount of $15,915.90.
Whoa.
Sorry, $15.90 per thousand. A final review by the DRA director will be done before the rate is finalized.
Pump the brakes on that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
And Paul will second it. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to make mention something. We used to say on a $300,000 house, it would be X. Well, there are no more $300,000 houses.
Right.
So on a $500,000 house, this would be an increase of about $605, correct?
I didn't run that calculation. I did the 300 because that's what I do. A $300,000 house is $363, and in my personal life, my home insurance went up over $363. So, I mean, this is for all your municipal services. I know it's a lot, but
it is.
It is a lot.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, next item, town manager's report.
So busy getting a lot of this stuff going toward the end of the year. You have warrant articles in front of you, you have the tax rate in front of you, you'll be getting this ad hoc ambulance report in front of you for the evening. We're continuing through union negotiations, and as well trying to prepare to go on vacation.
Oh, sure.
That's why he's smiling. Okay, committee reports. I'll start with Brian today.
So I can talk about ad hoc ambulance, but we already did. And that's finally coming to fruition. We'll have an answer soon. We had a wonderful election process. We were all there, and it was a nice short night. We got done by 10:15. Linda and I are doing a little bit of work trying to find out if we can cut the cost of the refinishing of the tennis courts.
And basketball courts.
And basketball courts, yeah. So we're looking at some avenues to see if maybe we can save a little bit of money on it. And that's about all I had.
Paul.
Last night, or yesterday's activity in this great hall was phenomenal. It was great to see. I think it was almost 80%, maybe more, of the people in this town showed up and voted, either virtually or showed up. And we grew our voter population by 5%. 288 people signed up for the first time to vote. I thought that was pretty cool. Ambulance team, Brian's spoken about it. I've been doing that as well. Police commission meetings, and sitting in with Jim and others on the contract discussions between and amongst both of our unions.
Yeah, I had a library reception to say goodbye to Jeannie Snowden, the children's librarian, and they'll miss her. But she has bought the bookstore in town, so that will keep going. I went to the Chamber Social at Otis Chocolate. I went to a Friends of Pop Whalen meeting. I went to a meeting with the residents of Whitegate to look at some other options on how to try to manage some of that water runoff. I went to the meeting on South Main Street, the water line. I've had a last night Wolfeboro meeting. We're finishing out our schedule and constantly working with trying to raise more money. And I met with Brian, and we're working on trying to find some funds and maybe ways to make it less expensive to resurface the pickleball, the tennis courts, pickleball, and basketball. Brad?
Yeah, obviously I joined everybody yesterday with the election process here. We've had some budget review meetings in the past week since our last meeting. And I also attended that construction update for the water line down through town with Linda last week. So, and that was it for me.
Well, as everybody said, we had a fun time voting yesterday.
Yes, we did.
And I had a Conservation Commission meeting.
Okay. Questions from the press? Is Alyssa on?
She is not.
Public input for you.
I am Catherine Dragonfly, and I'm here on my own behalf tonight, although I am a member of the Heritage Committee, but I've also been a certified appraiser and antique dealer for 45 years. I was lying in bed and I heard some of the conversation. I came running back down. One thing, I'm very concerned. I met with the curator, the director, whatever you want to call her. I met with her the other day and I did an interior scope of things. There's a lot of things that can't be covered, like clothing and textiles and all the little papers on the wall and ephemera, and there's just a lot that isn't in cases. I heard Brian recommend we put it downstairs here, and I think that's a really tough idea because you'll just infect this building. It's just like you have poison ivy and you're just gonna push it down the line. So that's a terrible thing. Another thing, I think we should get this out of here 2 months ago. I don't think we can wait any longer. It's just gonna grow. The mold will grow. As soon as it starts getting hot, cold, it's gonna get all that more moisture in it. As far as an appraisal, there really is no reason to differentiate who owns what, but you could, because when you do an appraisal, you just do it like in a Microsoft document, and you could have a column that says that if it matters to you. The quickest way you could do an appraisal would be to maybe have somebody from the television come in and do a video. Just have one person talk all through every case and just do a video. And then you could also have the video to do a written report. That's how I usually do it for the courts, divorces, anything where it needs to be documented. So the other thing I thought about is there are 3 different kinds of appraisals. There is a liquidation appraisal. There is fair market value, which is if you two just sold something outside. And then there's insurance replacement value. And each of those values differentiate by about 25%. So I do think it's imperative that we get a number on the collection so we can make sure it's insured insured enough. The other thing I was thinking is right around the corner on where the old Wickers is, they have storage that is climate controlled, and it's a big, huge building, and I'm thinking maybe they could help us. I can't imagine that it would cost more than $5,000 to get 2 big spaces. You need one for the dirty stuff, and then after it gets cleaned, you need a clean one for the clean stuff so they don't get infected again. And then I was talking to Julia Blacksmith about all of this going on after I went to the museum. And we were talking that in the master plan, and I had the numbers written down, but I forgot to bring them back. In the master plan, it calls for a janitor and a maintenance person, either 1 or 2 people to be employed by the town and do nothing but that. I don't know who does it now, if we have cleaners or something like that. But 5 or 10 years ago, when we started seeing rot on the papers down in the basement here, or on the Libby, or any of our other places, should be identified 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whenever the problem starts. It shouldn't just keep getting worse, and then all of a sudden we need, 10 million to fix maintenance things that should have been kept. I'm sure we all keep up with our houses. We should be keeping up with our buildings as well. And I would be glad to help with any of that. I have a lot of stuff in the Libby Museum. And when I went down the other day, it was all moldy. All my textiles were moldy. And the other thing is, if we did have a janitor, we could go and get those things out of there and start wiping down the cases with vinegar and water. That's all a professional is going to do, is vinegar and water, and do it slowly and thoroughly. We could do both the insides and outsides of all the counters. There are white cases over them. Those would need to be cleaned. I think it's a pretty big job, but I don't think it's so impossible that we couldn't hire 2 people to come in and do that. Employees, we could create jobs with this. We tend to get these contracts and they hire people from outside of our local area. I'd like to see more people local. There was one more thing. I'll be glad to help you any way I can. I'll think of it tomorrow.
It's late. If you do, just send us an email. Yeah, we can take that way.
I'll sit down. I'll think of it before.
Yep. Okay. Thank you for your input. Any other public input? Andrea?
I just had one quick question, and I understand your calendar is very busy and all, but I'm a little concerned if you really want public input about the construction, to give people less than a week's notice. I'm just concerned that you are able to get the word out quickly to come next Wednesday and offer commentary, where the Granite State has already been published, and it's just a thought, if there's any other way to give plenty of notice or have a huge blitz so people can come and give their thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public input? Hearing none. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
We adjourn.
Back that motion out, Dave.
Something that we could do by the end of the week is get some dehumidifiers in there. I'm sure they make big, huge ones. We don't need that. We could use 5 little ones. But we got to get somebody in there because the weather's going to start changing morning and night. So that's something we can do right away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move we adjourn.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Dave, seconded by Brad. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.